Marshall Peak, Chapter 5788, Divine Dragon. While the Fong family's patriarch was doubtful, the colossal golden figure seemed to have sensed something and looked in their direction. Despite the distance, Fong Tianci could clearly see what was going on in the Fong family village. Then, he flicked his fingers and shot out a white light, which soon landed in front of the patriarch with a faint thrum. As the patriarch looked on intently, he realized there was a sword in front of him. Despite the modest appearance, the sword was actually an extremely high-grade artifact. The patriarch hurriedly straightened up and grasped the hilt. To his surprise, he was able to pull out the sword easily. When he saw the character Fong on the hilt, he realized something and shouted, "It is Ancestor Tianci. Heavens bless Ancestor Tianci." Behind him, countless Fong family's descendants called out, "Heavens bless Ancestor Tianci." The golden figure that Fong Tianci had turned into nodded gently and shot towards the golden dragon along with Thunder Shadow. Before they even arrived, their figures started dissipating into millions of points of light before assimilating into the golden dragon. Although Fong Tianci was only a soul clone, he was born and raised in this world. In the end, he still had sentiments for the Fong family. That was the reason he left behind his sword before leaving. As long as the sword was still around, the Fong family would continue to thrive. The entire void world was the true body's small universe, so why would the soul clone's sword be lost? It could be said that as long as the true body was still alive and the small universe remained intact, the Fong family would continue to prosper. Despite being a soul clone, Fong Tianci wanted to do something for his family at the end of his life. Following the integration of the two soul clones, the color of the golden phantom dragon thickened. Its figure trembled and expanded in length. The phantom dragon was already 99,999 meters long, which was only a step away from 100,000 meters. Now that Yang Kai had merged with the two, he had finally shattered the bottleneck. At that, he was surprised. Back then, when his dragon vein was stuck and couldn't be improved any further, Yang Kai figured that he would have to ascend to the ninth order before he could break this bottleneck and become a divine dragon. It never crossed his mind that he would become a divine dragon first. After giving it some thought, though, he realized it wasn't so surprising. Both his human self and monster self were split and had to combine with his source. Now that the two had integrated with him, his source would naturally be strengthened. It naturally allowed him to become a divine dragon first. Yang Kai couldn't help feeling ecstatic, for he managed to become a divine dragon at the perfect time. Presently, he was no longer able to escape from the three pseudo-royal lords. Although he had repeatedly used his space secret technique, his Dao strength was in turmoil, which made it impossible for him to use instantaneous movement smoothly. As such, he was unable to shake off these powerful opponents. Now, he was cornered by the three pseudo-royal lords in a particular spot in the void. They were madly activating their aura to strike at Yang Kai and the void around him. They were trying to disturb Yang Kai and make it impossible for him to run away. Since Yang Kai was no longer able to flee, the murderous intent of these pseudo-royal lords surged as one of them yelled, "Kill!" They then charged towards him from different directions. As their black ink strength surged, they cast powerful secret techniques at Yang Kai, who staggered while appearing battered. If Yang Kai had not just become a divine dragon, he wouldn't have persevered for long when faced with the bombardment of attacks from three pseudo-royal lords. He would have had to spend some energy evading their attacks before, but the difference of 1 meter allowed him to ascend to the next stage, increasing his powers tremendously. The difference between an ancient dragon and a divine dragon was similar to that between an 8th Order Master and a 9th Order Master. It could be said that since Yang Kai was now a divine dragon, he was already able to deal with three pseudo-royal lords. However, it was still hard for him to defeat them. This couldn't be helped as he was at the most critical moment of using the Three Selves Source Reconstitution art. If he wanted to make it to the 9th Order, most of his focus had to remain on that. Yang Kai's dragon vein was only one of the reasons why he was powerful, while his small universe was his true foundation. He had a feeling that he couldn't reach the creation realm by relying on his dragon vein alone. It was only when his small universe grew stronger that he could peak at a higher realm of the martial Tao. Yang Kai had to spend most of his energy monitoring his small universe and circulating the three selves source reconstitution art, while only a small part of his energy was diverted to deal with the three pseudo-royal lords. That was the reason he still appeared to be in danger. Fortunately, after becoming a divine dragon, his body became much more resistant to beatings. Dragons had thick skin and strong flesh to begin with, not to mention that he was a divine dragon now, the most powerful of all dragons. From the outside, it appeared to everyone that Yang Kai was in mortal peril. Facing three pseudo-royal lords, Yang Kai stood no chance of surviving, and it was only a matter of time before he was defeated and killed. Yang Lai had thrown all caution to the wind as he raged. Although Xiaoyu felt bitter, he didn't dare to let his opponent go. He could only grit his teeth and hold on as he joined forces with 8 territory lords to ward off Yang Lai's violent storm of attacks. Yang Shui bit her lips so hard that it started bleeding. Now, it was Imo Nai trying to make sure she couldn't leave, not the other way around. Since Yang Kai was about to be killed, Imo Nai certainly wouldn't let Yang Shui stop that from happening. Everyone assumed that Yang Kai was doomed, and he might lose his life at any moment. Nevertheless, the three pseudo-royal lords fighting him felt that something was off. Although they had indeed managed to gain the upper hand, the feedback from the battle they received was strange somehow. It was as if something was greatly amiss. Supposedly, since Yang Kai was only a peak 8th Order master, he could only rely on space secret techniques to escape in this situation. Regardless of how powerful he was, there had to be a limit. Now that he was unable to flee, he should have lost his biggest advantage. With 3 pseudo-royal lords joining forces, they should be able to kill him with ease. However, despite how battered Yang Kai appeared and how frequently he spat blood, they were unable to kill him. In fact, he still seemed full of life. What's more, when their attacks landed on him, they couldn't cause any serious impact. It was as though a mysterious force was undermining their powers, making it impossible for them to deal a fatal blow. Yang Kai even counterattacked from time to time, and the power he exhibited didn't seem to belong to an 8th Order master. Feeling uneasy, the 3 pseudo-royal lords intensified their attacks. Faced with this kind of barrage, Yang Kai could only clench his teeth and persist. He was at the most critical moment of uniting his 3 selves. He had been waiting for this moment for thousands of years, so he wasn't willing to just give up because once he failed, he probably wouldn't get a second chance. The final war between the Black Ink clan and the human race had begun, so he didn't have time to nurture another human self and monster self. Therefore, he was determined to succeed. Although he was now a divine dragon, Yang Kai couldn't hold on for long while dealing with 3 pseudo-royal lords. He had to make it to the 9th Order before he lost all strength. Otherwise, he could only give up. When Fang Tian Ci and Thunder Shadow merged with his source, he managed to become a divine dragon, but on top of that, he could feel that there was something else added to his small universe. It was something Yang Kai couldn't describe or identify. He tried to calm himself down and investigate, but it was to no avail. Nonetheless, he could feel that this indescribable thing had filled his entire small universe. The golden dragon phantom roared. As dragon pressure spread across the world, the robust boundary walls around his small universe started wavering. Yang Kai was elated, thinking that the 3 self-source reconstitution art was working. When he reached the limit of his cultivation, Yang Kai could feel the boundary wall's presence in his small universe. It could be said that every peak 8th Order master unable to ascend to the 9th Order could feel this boundary wall in their small universe. That was the shortcoming of the open heaven realm method. The shackles within a cultivator couldn't be broken by using ordinary means. It had been quite some time since Yang Kai reached the peak of the 8th Order. However, regardless of how hard he tried, he was unable to expand or break the boundary wall at all. Although the boundary wall was invisible, it was extremely robust, as it engulfed his entire small universe. Nevertheless, at this moment, the boundary wall was shaken. This was undoubtedly a good start. As long as the boundary wall was broken, his small universe would continue to expand, which would then allow him to make it to the 9th Order. The phantom dragon continued to roar and smash into the boundary wall. Every time it did that, the boundary wall would shake, and as time passed, the intensity of the boundary wall's trembling increased. As such, Yang Kai spent even more energy to circulate the three-self source reconstitution art. Gradually, small cracks formed on the boundary wall. As long as he spent enough time and effort, he would be able to shatter the boundary wall. To his chagrin, though, after he made some calculations, Yang Kai helplessly realized that he didn't have enough time. Presently, he didn't only have to attempt breaking through to the Ninth Order, but also deal with 3 pseudo-royal lords. They were pseudo-royal lords, not territory lords, so while they weren't on par with true royal lords, it did not mean they were weak. Despite being a divine dragon, Yang Kai was unable to hold on for long while remaining passive against such foes. At this rate, he was worried that he would be killed before he managed to break the barrier around his small universe. As such, he had to hurry up. However, he was circulating the 3-self source reconstitution art at its supposed maximum, so there was nothing else he could do to enhance the process. Should I just give up? If he gave up at this point, he certainly could contend with the 3 pseudo-royal lords since he was a divine dragon. Nonetheless, his dream of becoming a Ninth Order master would be crushed, and the integration of his human self and monster self would be rendered meaningless. If he refused to give up, his injuries would only worsen until he was no longer able to hang on. Even if he gave up at that point, he would be too battered to fight 3 pseudo-royal lords. At that moment, Yang Kai fell into a dilemma. It was because of all these risks that he had wanted to look for the right time and place to unite his 3 selves. However, things had come to a point where he had no choice but to take a chance. To his dismay, things went contrary to his wishes. The sudden appearance of the universe furnace, the start of the war in this place, and the disadvantage that the human race was facing made Yang Kai fall into such an awkward situation. He secretly let out a sigh. If he couldn't achieve his goal, he would have no choice but to give up. Even though he couldn't make it to the Ninth Order, he had become a divine dragon at the very least, so he was glad that he had achieved something. After making up his mind, Yang Kai scanned the entire small universe and felt sorrowful as he figured he would never make it to the Ninth Order in his lifetime. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5789, Will of the People. Just as Yang Kai was sweeping his gaze over his small universe, an anomaly in a particular place caught his attention. The source of the anomaly was the Fong family village. At that moment, in the small Fong family village, everyone was saluting and calling out to Ancestor Tian Ci in a sincere manner with the patriarch in the lead. Before Fong Tian Ci merged with Yang Kai's source, he had left behind his sword to the Fong family. He wanted to do something for his family, and Yang Kai had seen it. Although the Fong family members didn't know what their ancestor was going through or doing, it wouldn't affect their admiration for him. That was because it was thanks to this ancestor that the Fong family had been thriving. The ancestor brought about the Fong family's rise to power. If not for the fact that the ancestor had become a successful cultivator and joined the Void Dao Temple, the Fong family wouldn't have flourished to such an extent. Over the years, countless families appeared and then disappeared in the Void world, unable to pass down their inheritance as they didn't have sufficient heritage. The Fong family members were sincerely paying respects to their ancestor because they were grateful for his contributions to the family. They were doing so for their descendants. There seemed to be a mysterious power that gathered in the Fong family village before it integrated with the Golden Dragon Phantom. Yang Kai fell into his thoughts when he witnessed this. Moments ago, his entire focus was on circulating the 3-self source reconstitution art to break his shackles, so he didn't notice this small anomaly in the Fong family village. Moreover, the mysterious power was so weak that it was almost imperceptible, so it failed to catch his eye. As he looked intently, though, Yang Kai realized that he wasn't mistaken. A mysterious power was indeed emerging from the Fong family village. The power was like a long thread that connected the Fong family village and the Golden Dragon Phantom in the sky above. At that moment, many ideas flashed across Yang Kai's mind, and he soon realized something critical. I see. This is the true nature of the 3-self source reconstitution art. He had learned the three selves source reconstitution art from Wu Kuang and spent thousands of years nurturing a human self and monster self. However, he didn't know how he could make use of the three selves source reconstitution art to shatter his shackles so that he could ascend from the 8th order to the 9th order. Initially, Yang Kai speculated that he just had to combine the powers of the human self and monster self to forcefully shatter his shackles and achieve a breakthrough. However, after activating the three selves source reconstitution art, he realized that things were different from what he had imagined. The integration of three peak 8th order masters' powers was not enough to allow him to blow away the innate shackles and break the boundary wall around his small universe. Nevertheless, after the two selves merged with the source, he managed to become a divine dragon. The secret of the three selves source reconstitution art wasn't just about uniting his three selves, it was about cultivating this mysterious power. The power of destiny. Destiny was a combination of fate, luck, the will of the people, and the source of the heavens and earth. In the expansive universe, since the birth of the primordial light, there had been three major eras. The divine spirits, who were transformed from the primordial light, ruled over all under the heavens during the primordial era. Then, the great monsters rose to power, leading to the early ancient era. When the open heaven realm method was popularized, it ushered in the late ancient era, where the human race dominated the universe. In every era, the race that ruled over everyone else was the favorite of the time, and fortune was on their side. The divine spirits, monster race, and the human race. Each represented three different eras. On the other hand, the three selves source reconstitution art combined the powers of three selves to transcend the barriers between the eras. By integrating the power of destiny of the three eras, one could shatter the open heaven realm method's shackles and achieve a breakthrough. That was the secret of the three selves source reconstitution art. Integrating the power of destiny from different eras was the key. Upon that realization, Yang Kai couldn't help thinking that Shi was indeed a genius. The three selves source reconstitution art wasn't just a secret art, it was a method of condensing the essence of all past eras into one. After giving it some thought, Yang Kai realized it wasn't so surprising. If Shi were not brilliant enough, he wouldn't have been able to devise a heaven-defying secret art such as the heaven-devouring battle law. Since Yang Kai had figured out the secret of the three selves source reconstitution art, he realized that there was still hope for him. He didn't have to give up just yet. Although time was running out, he decided to give it a try. If he succeeded, he would ascend to the 9th order in addition to becoming a divine dragon. If he failed, he would be stuck at the peak of the 8th order forever. Having made up his mind, Yang Kai spent most of his energy observing his small universe, and soon, he saw even more power of destiny streaming towards the golden dragon from different parts of his small universe. The power of destiny was invisible and intangible, so one could hardly notice it in their day-to-day life. Nevertheless, since this was inside Yang Kai's small universe, he was able to see more than normal and could spot traces of this mysterious force. Inside Yang Kai's small universe, apart from those from the Fong family village paying respects to their ancestor, many people from other places were also praying for safety. The Fong family members were mainly saluting their ancestor, who had merged with the golden dragon's source. As such, their power of destiny naturally integrated with the source as well. Other people from different places were offering their prayers to this world, so their power of destiny streamed towards the golden dragon as well. However, that wasn't enough. The next moment, the people in the void world, regardless of their cultivation, gender, or age, saw something so shocking that they would never forget it. A figure suddenly appeared in the sky, one that was both enormous and authoritative. Soon, a sense of unease washed over the entire world. Most of them had no idea what was going on. Their initially peaceful lives had descended into chaos as a golden dragon and a gigantic figure appeared. The faint-hearted thought that the end had arrived, so they started bawling their eyes out in panic. On the other hand, the disciples from the Void Tao Temple, or those who had cultivated in that place before, recognized the figure and exclaimed loudly. That was because the person was none other than the Tao Lord. The disciples of the Void Tao Temple were aware of secrets that ordinary people didn't know. They knew that the entire void world was the Tao Lord's small universe. When one had reached an adequate cultivation realm, they would be brought out of this place by the Tao Lord and allowed to break through. The Tao Lord had rarely shown up since time immemorial, so it surprised them when he appeared all of a sudden. At that moment, the disciples of the Void Tao Temple were excited as they fell to their knees and called out to the Tao Lord. With a solemn expression, Yang Kai swept a glance over the entire small universe. He initially wanted to put on an imposing act, but when he noticed the unease in the small universe, he decided to just cut to the chase. My name is Yang Kai, the Lord of this world. Everyone fell silent as billions of people stared up at the figure in a dazed state. Some of them were in disbelief, while some of them were excited. This world is in turmoil now because I am facing powerful enemies. So first, I must ask all of you to remain calm. Upon hearing that, the people of Void World were astonished, especially those from the Void Tao Temple. The disciples there knew that the Tao Lord had been contending with some powerful enemies over the years. Their senior brothers and senior sisters had left this world to help the Tao Lord in his fight. However, they assumed that the Tao Lord was mighty and that there was nothing he couldn't achieve. As such, they wondered how powerful his opponents had to be to cause the world they lived in to fall into upheaval. They had rarely experienced such turmoil before. Needless to say, the opponents that the Tao Lord was dealing with must be formidable. Alone, I am no match for these enemies, so I need all of you to lend me your aid. In the Void Tao Temple, an old cultivator shouted, "Please tell us what we can do to help you, Tao Lord." Since the Tao Lord was in danger, they wouldn't hesitate to offer their assistance. The entire Void World was his small universe. After all, if the Tao Lord was defeated, the entire world would fall apart as well. Their fates were intertwined with the Tao Lord's. Therefore, the moment the old man heard that the Tao Lord needed help, he had the urge to leave this world at once and fight alongside him. The other cultivators shouted, "Please tell us what we can do, Tao Lord." They knew that they were too weak to help the Tao Lord in his fight. However, he must have his reasons for saying that he needed their aid. Regardless of what they were required to do, they just had to put in the effort. Just then, a hot-headed man yelled, "Who are those people who have the guts to fight you, Tao Lord? Although I am weak, I am willing to do anything to help. Even if I may die, I will make sure to take a piece of the enemy's flesh before I fall." Yang Kai flashed a smile at that disciple and continued, "There's no need for that. The enemy is too powerful, so even if all of you combine your might, you will not be able to oppose them. As for how you can help, I need you to cheer for me. Chant things like, 'Tao Lord is unrivaled, Tao Lord is mighty, Tao Lord will never be defeated,' and so on." All the disciples in the Void Tao Temple and the people in the Void World were dumbfounded. Could they really help the Tao Lord just by cheering for him? Was he pulling their leg? He certainly sounded uncertain just now, so they didn't understand how this could help him contend with the enemies. Fixing his expression, Yang Kai shouted solemnly, "Time is running out. Whether I win this battle depends on all of you now." The moment he finished speaking, the figure dissipated. In the Tao Temple, the disciples exchanged shocked glances for a moment before all of a sudden, the same hot-headed disciple lifted his arms and shouted, "Tao Lord is unrivaled." He was so agitated that the veins on his neck throbbed. His unwavering attitude showed that he truly believed that the Tao Lord was unrivaled under the heavens. Then, he raised his arms and shouted again. Soon, the other disciples joined in. Several moments later, all the disciples of the Tao Temple were cheering for the Tao Lord. They even circulated their powers to spread their voices far and wide. Their fervor spread like wildfire. In the Void World, the people from all the cities, villages, and sects cheered for the Tao Lord, their voices reverberating out across the sky. Soon, all the people in the entire world were cheering for the Tao Lord at the same time. Words like "Tao Lord is invincible," "Tao Lord is almighty," and "Tao Lord is the most powerful" could be heard everywhere. All were united to boost the Tao Lord's morale. Just like the divine spirits in the primordial era and monster race in the early ancient era, the humans were the favorite of this era and the rulers of the universe. As such, The human's power of destiny was the strongest. Presently, there were billions in Yang Kai's small universe, so when so many were united to cheer for the Tao Lord, a torrent of power of destiny flooded into the golden dragon phantom. Martial Peak, Chapter 5790, finally reaching the Ninth Order. Everywhere in the void world, regardless of how flourishing or rural it was, the humans of different ages, genders, and cultivation cheered for the Tao Lord at the top of their lungs with utmost sincerity. Streams of power of destiny with various degrees of strength flowed towards the phantom golden dragon from these billions of people. As Yang Kai looked internally, he could see countless threads of destiny connecting the golden dragon and the citizens of his small universe, forming a gigantic and dense web. The power of destiny from a small number of people was weak, but when billions of people cheered for him, their power of destiny could move the world. As a result, the dragon pressure intensified. The dragon phantom roared and swam through the air. Like snowflakes under the scorching sun, the boundary wall that engulfed Yang Kai's small universe started melting away. The three selves source reconstitution art was fully activated. The power of destiny from three different eras integrated with each other, with the human's era being the most prominent. The shackles were shattered, and the small universe expanded. At the same time, Yang Kai's aura rose rapidly. The three pseudo-royal lords, who were contending with him, realized that something was off. Since they had joined forces, Yang Kai, a peak 8th Order master, was supposedly not a match for them. Considering the fact that he was unable to flee, it should have been a simple matter to kill him. However, the fact that he had persevered until now puzzled the three pseudo-royal lords. What was more, his aura was now rising sharply, as though he was about to achieve a breakthrough, an inconceivable occurrence. No one knew what Yang Kai had done that allowed him to be so resilient and unwavering. They speculated that it might have something to do with the fact that he had opened up his small universe and put an 8th Order master and a monster race great emperor, but they had no idea how that was possible. His already magnificent aura was still strengthening. A pseudo-royal lord exclaimed, "Kill him now." Something was definitely amiss. If they allowed Yang Kai's aura to continue to strengthen, he would probably break through and reach the Ninth Order, which would be a disaster. As far as the Black Ink clansmen knew, Yang Kai could never ascend to the Ninth Order in his lifetime, but he now showed signs of doing just that. The other two pseudo-royal lords needed no reminder as they used their most powerful moves. They madly channeled their strength in an attempt to end Yang Kai's life in that instant. Nevertheless, regardless of how hard they tried and how battered Yang Kai appeared, they were unable to end him. A divine dragon was already stronger than an average Ninth Order master or royal lord. So while Yang Kai focused on his small universe and only spent a bit of his energy fending off the enemies, it still wasn't easy to kill him. On the other side, Emo Na was growing apprehensive as well. He knew that something must have gone terribly wrong. It seemed that Yang Kai was indeed about to make it to the Ninth Order, so he was anxious to race over and kill him once and for all. However, before getting rid of Yang Shui, he could never have a hand in the fight over there. Just as the Black Ink clan was growing anxious, Yang Kai's aura seemed to have broken through a limit and exploded. The imposing aura coming from him suggested that he was no longer an 8th Order master. In fact, it seemed that he was now even more powerful than an ordinary 9th Order master. At that moment, Yang Kai, who was seemingly no match for the three pseudo-royal lords, suddenly opened his eyes, which shone as brightly as a pair of great suns. Although his entire figure was covered in blood, he was full of vigor and vitality. He swept a glance over the three pseudo-royal lords and growled, "Had fun beating me up? It's my turn now." The moment he finished speaking, he clenched the azure dragon spear and surged his Tao strengths. A splashing sound was heard all of a sudden, and the space-time river, which disappeared previously when his Tao strengths fell into turmoil, reappeared and swirled around the spear like a water dragon. He then thrust his spear out and stabbed it into the pseudo-royal lord nearest to him. The pseudo-royal lord was dumbstruck and hurriedly tried to retreat. However, the instant he made a move, the spear broke past the barriers of time and space and penetrated his figure. He fell into a dazed state as he felt a sharp pain in his chest and looked down, realizing he had been hit. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked up with difficulty and stared at Yang Kai. How? He was a pseudo-royal lord, after all. Although he had just become one before entering the universe furnace, he was still a pseudo-royal lord. He had the power of a royal lord, and though he couldn't use all of it, he shouldn't be that different from a Ninth Order master. Any other Ninth Order master wouldn't have been able to kill him with such ease. They would have exchanged over 100 moves at the very least. However, he was gravely injured by Yang Kai with just one attack. The attack didn't look like anything special, but he had somehow fallen into a dazed state and failed to dodge it. Before his death, the pseudo-royal lord suddenly realized something. He couldn't help recalling the moment Yang Kai extended his spear earlier. Despite how ordinary the attack looked, the spear seemingly thrust out from a vague point in the past before piercing into him at a particular moment in the future. As such, he stood no chance of dodging it. The Tao of space-time. He finally figured out what happened. Too weak. Yang Kai snorted. Despite how battered he appeared, he still appeared extremely aggressive. As he wielded his spear, the pseudo-royal lord exploded into a blood mist, after which his ample black ink strength dissipated. Everyone suddenly fell silent in shock. Yang Kai managed to kill a pseudo-royal lord with only one attack, so how were the others in the Black Ink clan supposed to be a match for him? Although it had clearly something to do with the fact that the pseudo-royal lord was caught off guard, that did not diminish how powerful Yang Kai was. This kind of strength was beyond their comprehension. Imo Naiyi, who was contending with Yang Shui, turned pale and felt a crawling sensation on his scalp. There was no doubt that Yang Kai was now Ninth Order Master. He broke through to the Ninth Order. How? How did this happen? How is it possible for him to even have the chance to make it to the Ninth Order? Imo Naiyi heard that Yang Kai had snatched a supreme-grade open heaven pill, so he was worried that the latter would refine it and reach the Ninth Order. As such, even though the Black Ink clan had gained the upper hand, and he had also prepared a trump card, he still waited patiently for that opportunity to take Yang Kai down. There was no denying that Xiang Shan was a formidable opponent, but in comparison, Yang Kai posed a bigger threat. Therefore, Imo Naiyi had to wait for Yang Kai to show up before taking action. Yang Kai indeed appeared at a later time, and he was still an Eighth Order Master, which made Imo Naiyi breathe a sigh of relief. At the most critical moment, Yang Kai threw away the supreme-grade open heaven pill to divert the Chaos Spirit King's attention. But without that pill, how did he manage to reach the Ninth Order? Did it have something to do with him taking an Eighth Order Master and Monster Race Great Emperor into his small universe? Imo Naiyi was unable to figure out the answer. All the same, it was an irrefutable fact that Yang Kai was now a Ninth Order Master. Otherwise, he couldn't have killed a pseudo-royal lord with one thrust of his spear. When Yang Kai was still an Eighth Order Master, he was already able to easily kill innate territory lords by using his soul secret technique, though he would also hurt himself during the process. Imo Naiyi was worried that things would only get worse if Yang Kai managed to make it to the Ninth Order, and now it seemed that his greatest fear had become reality. At that moment, he intended to flee, but how was he supposed to do that when he was engaged in a fight with Yang Shui? Haha, I told you we were going to win. Yang Xiao, who was part of the humans' defense line, guffawed while Bloodcrow, who was fighting alongside him, was speechless. Earlier, Yang Kai opened up his small universe and put Fang Tian Ci in Thunder Shadow. Yang Xiao had already made such a bold claim. At that time, Bloodcrow dismissed it. The humans were in a perilous situation as the two Ninth Order Masters were tangled up in fights, and the defense line was on the brink of coming apart. The humans were bound to collapse at any moment. No one could have expected that barely an hour later, things would take such a drastic turn. Since Yang Kai was now a Ninth Order Master, the Black Ink clan had lost their advantage. Presently, the humans had gained the upper hand instead. Just like Imo Naiyi, Bloodcrow was puzzled as to how Yang Kai ascended to the Ninth Order. Even if he had refined a supreme-grade open heaven pill, he couldn't have achieved an ascension so quickly. Moreover, he had already lost that spirit pill. However, it was just like what Yang Xiao had said. His adoptive father could always create miracles in the most despairing situations and turn the tides of fortune around. Perhaps that was why the people who had fought alongside him before had blind trust and admiration for him. In fact, Bloodcrow was one of those people. Back then, he was a terrible fellow. He still couldn't be considered a good one now. Nevertheless, after going through bloody battles and witnessing how much the humans were willing to sacrifice for the greater good, Bloodcrow, who was also a human, sincerely hoped that the Black Ink clan would be destroyed once and for all one day. Good, good, good. Kill them all. Yang Lai became energetic in an instant. When he saw that Yang Kai was in danger earlier, he was anxious, but now he could be at ease. Nonetheless, he was doubtful as well. He knew that Yang Kai had made use of the Three Selves Source Reconstitution art to ascend to the Ninth Order, but the latter seemed to have a greater heritage than him. As a new Ninth Order Master, Yang Kai's attack earlier was surprisingly powerful. After giving it some thought, Yang Lai realized it wasn't so shocking. Yang Kai had said that after he used the Three Selves Source Reconstitution art, his three selves would unite. In that case, Feng Tianxi's small universe would merge with Yang Kai's. In other words, Yang Kai's small universe didn't only have his own heritage but also Feng Tianxi's heritage, which helped save him a lot of cultivation time. Therefore, it was only natural that he was more powerful than the average newly ascended Ninth Order Master. After Yang Kai killed a pseudo-royal lord with just one attack, everyone was shocked. When the other two pseudo-royal lords saw how ferocious Yang Kai was, they naturally wouldn't dare to fight him head-on. They quickly retreated together as they stared warily at Yang Kai. However, Yang Kai only shot them a glance but didn't pursue them. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but rather that since he was a new Ninth Order Master, his small universe was still a bit unstable. He had fully surged his power to kill the pseudo-royal lord a moment ago to intimidate the others so that they would back off. At this moment, the boundary wall in his small universe had been shattered, and it was still expanding rapidly. Besides that, Feng Tianxi's small universe was also assimilating into his, which brought with it a lot of pure world force. Since Feng Tianxi was his human self, his power could perfectly blend into Yang Kai's small universe without any contamination concerns. Even Thunder Shadow's monster core, which he had nurtured all his life, was melting and turning into a very pure power, which was then assimilated into Yang Kai's small universe and helped strengthen his heritage. Martial Peak, Chapter 5791, Plotting. Yang Kai's many years of cultivation were a path with bumps and thorns. Moments ago, his martial Tao had come to a standstill, but now that he had finally reached the Ninth Order Open Heaven realm, he couldn't help but sigh with a multitude of emotions. With the expansion of his small universe, his heritage strength, which was already powerful, grew at a steady pace. Nevertheless, there was still a limit to this kind of growth, and soon after, his small universe calmed down and stabilized at a new peak. Taking advantage of Yang Kai's momentary distraction, the two pseudo-royal lords had already fled back to the Black Ink clan. The sudden death of their companion had left them terrified. So how could they have the courage to remain behind to face Yang Kai? At this moment, it was only natural for them to run to a place with more allies to seek a sense of security. The Black Ink clan side had some 10 pseudo-royal lords and a large number of territory lords. So even if Yang Kai had reached the Ninth Order Open Heaven realm and decided to pursue them, they might still be able to put up a fight. In any case, Yang Kai did not seem to have any intention of killing his way over. Instead, he simply stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion. The next moment, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was none other than Lin Wu, who had ambushed him and caused the 8 trigrams formation to break apart previously. He had been staying nearby, probably looking for an opportunity to sneak attack Yang Kai again, but everything happened too fast. Yang Kai somehow advanced the Ninth Order and killed a pseudo-royal lord with a single thrust of his spear, so Lin Wu basically had no suitable opportunity to make his move. Furthermore, he was only a newly promoted 8th Order Master, so even if he really attacked, he might not be able to play any role in such a battle. Lin Wu instinctively tried to resist after being captured by Yang Kai, but bound by space principles, he was unable to move a finger. The next moment, a dazzling pure white light enveloped Lin Wu. He instantly started screaming miserably as black ink strength was purged from his body completely. After finishing this, Yang Kai let go of him. Guilt instantly blanketed Lin Wu as he stuttered, Senior brother Yang, I. Yang Kai interrupted him. You don't need to explain. Killing the enemy is what you should do now. Lin Wu grit his teeth before nodding, yes. He then looked around for a moment before turning around and flying off towards Tian Xiuzhu and the others. At this time, the huge battlefield was divided into 4 battlefronts. The first battlefront was naturally Yang Shui versus Mo Naiyi. The second battlefront was fought between the Black Ink Clan Masters and the besieged the Human Race Masters. The third battlefront was fought between Ouyang Lai and Xiao Yu and his 8 Territory Lord allies. And the last battlefront involved Tian Xiuzhu leading the 5 Elements formation confronting the pseudo-royal lord, Meng Quebec. Previously, Tian Xiuzhu, who was leading his battle formation, sent Lin Wu and Zhang Tianhe to assist Yang Kai in maintaining the 8 trigrams formation, but because of this, they were stranded outside the main battlefield and unable to return to their own side. Ultimately, they had no choice but to enter a battle with Meng Quebec. Lin Wu checked the 4 battlefronts. Obviously, he could not intervene in the battle between a 9th Order Master and a Royal Lord, nor could he break through the defensive line of the Black Ink Clan who were besieging the humans. The only fight he could join was the one Tian Xiuzhu was leading. Perhaps after joining Tian Xiuzhu and the others, they could form a 6 paths formation and repel the enemy. Originally, there was another battlefield where Yang Kai was fighting against 3 pseudo-royal lords alone. However, after the death of one of the 3 pseudo-royal lords, the rest had fled, leaving Yang Kai completely free. After Lin Wu left, Yang Kai flew in another direction with his space-time river flowing over his spear. Suddenly, Mo Na-Ye's thoughts fell into complete disarray. And why not? After all, Yang Kai was coming straight for him. At first, he was able to fight evenly with Yang Shui. Although he was at a slight disadvantage because of his injuries, it did not bring him that much harm. In this battle, they were basically mutually restraining each other, so he could neither kill Yang Shui, nor could she kill him. But if Yang Kai joined in, he would definitely not be able to survive in the face of Yang Kai's treacherous methods. In the blink of an eye, Mo Naiyi shouted, "Kill all the humans at all costs, or it will be too late." After he gave the order, the Black Ink Clan's offense immediately became fiercer. Originally, the humans on the other side of the battlefield were no match for the Black Ink Clan, be it in quality or quantity, so things were not looking good for them. The main reason they were able to hold on until now was because of the protection of many warships and superior battle formations. But at this point in the battle, most warships had been destroyed, so now, the humans were only holding their ground thanks to the joint efforts of the 8th Order Masters and the Black Ink Clan's fear of death, but they could not last long. Once the defensive line was broken, the Black Ink Clan, under the leadership of the many pseudo-royal lords, would definitely massacre the human masters, causing tremendous casualties. Previously, the Black Ink Clan had been acting cautiously against the humans, but after Mo Naiyi had given the order, they no longer had any scruples and were willing to pay any price to kill the enemy. Yang Kai, who was heading straight towards Mo Naiyi, momentarily stopped before continuing with his original intention. At the same time, he thrust his spear out at Mo Naiyi before he even arrived while shouting in a cold voice, "Clever!" Mo Naiyi, who was still entangled with Yang Shui, had a drastic change in his expression. Clearly, Yang Kai had thrust his spear from quite a distance, but he had a feeling that he would not be able to block it even from afar. The oncoming spear gave the feeling as if it was thrust from right in front of him. Mo Naiyi's figure shook as his black ink strength gushed out. While he was pulling back, he saw the tip of the spear rapidly expanding in his eyes, quickly filling his vision. Unable to defend and unable to dodge, Mo Naiyi let out an indignant roar before gathering all his energy in his palm and smacking it towards the oncoming spear with all his might. As the spear and palm met, a powerful shockwave spread across the void. In the wake of the clash, as Mo Naiyi was sent flying, 3 sword lights shot towards him at an incredible speed. These attacks were launched by none other than Yang Shui. Imo Nai had clearly noticed these three sword strikes coming at him, and had Yang Shui been acting alone, he would have had no problem dealing with them, but Yang Kai was also attacking him at the same time, so how could he have any extra strength to spare? These three sword strikes seemed to contain the mysteries of the Grand Tao of Time, as Imo Nai clearly saw Yang Shui swing her sword, but was already struck by the attack before she completed the motion. Immediately after, pitch-black blood sprayed out of 3 gaping wounds on his body. Imo Nai somehow withstood this fearsome attack and barely managed to stabilize himself, but the clash had left him in a sorry state. Meanwhile, Yang Kai was still slowly making his way towards Imo Nai from far away. He was walking at such leisure that it looked like he was taking a stroll in his own courtyard. The long spear in his hand was also slightly flickering, leaving spear shadows behind. Yang Kai then calmly stated, "Shui'er, go help the others. I'll deal with this guy." Holding her sword, Yang Shui looked at Imo Nai with some unwillingness before finally nodding, "Big brother, be careful." Saying so, she transformed into a streak of light as she flew towards the main battlefield. Although she wanted to stay behind and kill Imo Nai together with her big brother, the human defensive line was on the verge of collapse. She was the only one who could help stabilize their position now. This was also the reason why Imo Nai had ordered the Black Ink clan troops to slaughter the humans at all costs. He knew that he was definitely not an opponent of 2 Ninth Order masters, especially when one of them was Yang Kai. If he didn't find a way to restrain one of them, he would certainly die. The best option he could use was the humans' defensive line. Although he had successfully removed Yang Shui, Imo Nai still did not have much confidence. His sharp intuition told him that today would definitely be disastrous. Since he was targeted by Yang Kai, he would definitely die. For many years, he had been a pseudo-royal lord while Yang Kai was only an 8th Order master. Although he was clearly stronger, Imo Nai never acted to confront Yang Kai because he knew that without a thorough plan, he would never be able to kill someone so good at escaping. Once he provoked Yang Kai, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble, so he had been tolerating Yang Kai's rudeness so far. It was only after he had become a royal lord in the universe furnace world that he finally gained the confidence to scheme for Yang Kai's life. Everything was going according to plan, but then Yang Kai's sudden breakthrough to the 9th Order messed everything up. Even now, he still could not understand how Yang Kai managed to break through to the 9th Order open heaven realm right under their noses. Imo Nai was certain that the information he had obtained from the Black Ink disciples was not wrong. Yang Kai should have had no chance of reaching the 9th Order open heaven realm in his life. The peak of the 8th Order had to be his limit. Furthermore, Yang Kai had yet to refine a supreme-grade open heaven pill, so how could he have advanced? Imo Nai could not understand it at all, but in any case, Yang Kai was already in the 9th Order. Now, a life-and-death battle was definitely going to be fought between them. In the void, Yang Kai was still walking towards Imo Nai at a leisurely pace, but every time he took a step, Imo Nai's heart would jump to his throat. Distance was basically meaningless to a master proficient in the Tao of space, so Imo Nai had to be on guard against Yang Kai, as the latter could attack at a moment's notice. "Imo Nai, you seem a bit nervous." Yang Kai suddenly chuckled. Imo Nai's heart tightened as he replied in a shaky voice, "No one can remain calm and indifferent when facing someone like Brother Yang." Yang Kai gently nodded. "You used to call me Yang Kai, but now that I've advanced to the 9th Order open heaven realm, you're addressing me as Brother Yang. But even if you speak with me in such a friendly manner, I won't let you off. Among everyone in the Black Ink clan, I am most wary of you. You seem to be a bit different from the others of your kind." Imo Nai's brow slightly rose. "I am honored to receive such praise from you, Brother Yang. In fact, the Black Ink clan has many talented members. It's just that Brother Yang's vision is too high, so you seem to not have noticed them." "Perhaps," Yang Kai non-committally replied, "as an old rival of many years, I'll give you a chance to leave behind your last words. If you have anything you want to say it quickly." Imo Nai couldn't help but break into laughter. "Does Brother Yang really want to fight me to the death? Why don't you and I withdraw and meet again on the battlefield some other day? In fact, if we continue fighting like this, It won't end well for either of us. Although your sister has already gone to support them, how many people can she protect by herself? My Black Ink clan has many pseudo-royal lords here. You make a good point. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Emo Naya's expression suddenly changed as he threw a powerful punch forward, releasing a blast of black ink strength before him. Meanwhile, Yang Kai, who had been strolling in the distance, suddenly appeared right in front of him and thrust out his spear. The space-time river was continuously swirling around his spear as Tao strengths converged and transformed, displaying endless mysteries. He was just talking about stopping the fight, but now he suddenly became violent. Of course, Yang Kai was going to go all out when confronting the enemy. That's why I need to kill you as soon as possible. Yang Kai's next words were accompanied by a powerful attack. Emo Nai clenched his teeth and did not say a word. He had been on guard against Yang Kai all this time as he knew that he could not move the latter with words alone. So, when Yang Kai suddenly attacked, he immediately reacted. Yang Kai's figure kept moving along with his spear as Tao strengths fiercely fluctuated with every attack. On the other side, black ink strength surged around Emo Nai. The two of them had completely given up on using any divine abilities or secret techniques. They were attacking only based on their subtle sense of danger and their grasp of the situation. For a time, the two were locked in a heated battle, shattering the void every time they clashed. Martial Peak, Chapter 5792, cut off the enemy's retreat and destroy them. Ever since the Black Ink clan invaded the 3,000 worlds and started occupying various great territories, Ninth Order Masters and Royal Lords had not fought each other until today. The devastating battle in the barren territory robbed both sides of almost all of their top masters. The Black Ink clan was left with only one Royal Lord, Mou, who was guarding the Noreturn Pass, while the human race's situation was slightly better, having a total of 2 Ninth Order Masters, Xiao Xiao and Wu Qing. But, as they needed to contain the Black Ink giant spirit god, these 2 Ninth Order Masters were unable to participate in other matters. So, naturally, the top powerhouses of both sides never met, much less fought. The older generation's cultivators were slightly better off as they had witnessed battles of that level before, but how could the younger generation of humans have had the opportunity to witness such a sight? Throughout their growth, the Ninth Order Masters were akin to legendary figures. But today, on this battlefield, battles between Royal Lords and Ninth Order Masters occurred for the first time after the Barrier Territory War. First, a battle between Ouyang Lai and Xiaoyu broke out, then between Yang Shui and Emo Nai, and now, Yang Kai took Yang Shui's place and fought with Emo Nai. The fallout of their battle seemed to shake the entire world. Only now did the younger humans finally get to witness and experience the true might of a Ninth Order Master. Furthermore, the strength displayed by Yang Kai was obviously much more devastating than Yang Shui's. He completely suppressed Emo Nai the moment they clashed. His Azure Dragon spear moved back and forth with the space-time river swirling around it, making use of 10,000 different Tao strengths. All kinds of unfathomable methods appeared one after another, causing even a royal lord like Emo Nai to be unable to resist. The morale of the humans immediately soared. The moment of crisis for the human race had already passed with a Ninth Order Master like Yang Shui personally coming to their aid. Although it was still difficult for them to turn the tide, the situation on the defensive line would not worsen at the very least. With Xiang Shan and many other veteran 8th Order Masters taking command, it would not be easy for the Black Ink clan to break through their defensive line anymore. After seeing this, Ouyang Lai quickly calmed down and stabilized his state of mind. He was fighting Xiao Yu and 8 territory lords all this while. He had not suffered any major losses, but neither had he occupied any significant advantages. This was mainly because he was having a real hard time focusing on his battle with the dire state of the humans around him and all kinds of unforeseen events popping up. Now that he had calmed down, Ouyang Lai saw a way to defeat his enemy. He kept only as much focus on dealing with Xiao Yu as necessary while he diverted most of his strength attacking the 8 territory lords who were arranged into 2 battle formations. So long as he could take out these territory lords, killing them one by one, Xiao Yu alone would not be his opponent. After all, Xiaoyu had suffered serious injuries at the hands of Yang Shui before, which made it difficult for him to display his full strength. The battle on various battlefronts instantly grew even more heated than ever. Suddenly, a laugh originated from somewhere in the void, carrying a hint of surprise and relief. It was Imo. No one knew why he laughed, as he was clearly in a tight spot. He could lose his life at any moment under Yang Kai's relentless and powerful attacks, but he was still able to laugh. Across from him, Yang Kai, who was relentlessly attacking, coldly rebuked, "What's so funny? Be careful, or you might lose your teeth." Imo, while defending himself, slowly shook his head. "Brother Yang, you're very strong, but you're weaker than I expected." These words sounded somewhat contradictory, but they were indeed true. When Yang Kai had broken past the 8th Order Open Heaven Realm shackles, advancing to the 9th Order, Imo thought he was dead for sure. If he was facing any other 9th Order master, Imo was confident that even if he could not defeat them, he could at least escape, but against someone like Yang Kai who was proficient in the Tao of Space, he thought that only death awaited him if he could not win outright in battle. So, when he saw Yang Kai advance to the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm and kill a pseudo-royal lord with a single thrust of his spear, Imo resigned himself to death already. But after a brief exchange with Yang Kai, he was surprised to discover that Yang Kai was not as powerful as he had imagined. It had to be known that when Yang Kai was an 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, he could kill territory lords and innate territory lords like he was slaughtering chickens and dogs. Up against him, the acquired territory lords and innate territory lords could not put up a fight, and were often slaughtered before they even saw his face. When he was in the 7th Order, Yang Kai was rumored to be capable of butchering feudal lords in just the same way. So, in Imo estimations, once Yang Kai advanced to the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm, no royal lord would be able to survive against him. He had always regarded Yang Kai as the greatest threat to the Black Ink clan. If he had to choose between killing Xiang Shan or Yang Kai, he would pick Yang Kai without hesitation. He had devised many arrangements and had been waiting for Yang Kai to appear all this time, just for that purpose. But all his schemes had come to naught as Yang Kai still broke through to the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm. During this exchange, Yang Kai's momentum was still unstoppable, and his attacks were devastating to the point that Imo was unable to even lift his head. But this kind of Yang Kai was still within the realm of what seemed normal. He was not strong to the point of absurdity. It had to be known that Imo current state was quite bad. He was already injured even before arriving here, and then he still fought Yang Kai in an 8 trigrams battle formation for a long time, which added more wounds to his body. After that, he even fought with Yang Shui. The current Imo was nowhere near his peak. Yet, Yang Kai was unable to quickly finish him off, which painted a clear picture. That was why Imo laughed, not because he thought that he could escape from this crisis, but because even if Yang Kai had advanced to the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm, there were still members in the Black Ink clan who could go against him. At the very least, a veteran royal lord like Imo was definitely not inferior to the current Yang Kai. If the two fought right here and now, it would probably end in a draw. Of course, Imo knew that Yang Kai was also not in peak condition, but so what? In the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm, Yang Kai's strength was not currently beyond his understanding, and that was more than enough. Yang Kai roughly knew what his opponent was laughing about, but he was also helpless in this matter. Since even Imo had suffered heavy injuries and his strength had taken a hit, how could he remain unscathed? At this moment, Yang Kai had just advanced to the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm and was not in great shape. Not to mention, he was injured in the previous battle and also suffered serious injuries when Lin Wu's sneak attack landed. Although he had recovered to about 80% of his peak thanks to the profound power of the space-time river, it was still not a complete recovery. Furthermore, his human self Fong Tian Ci and monster self Thunder Shadow's injuries were far more severe than his own. The fusion of his 3 selves in his small universe was imperfect. Although the union of 3 selves had allowed Yang Kai to break through his shackles, his gains had been very limited. Had his divine spirit self, human self, and monster self all been in top condition, Yang Kai would have definitely been stronger and could have easily killed Emo Na Yi. Be that as it may, his hands were tied at that moment. Luckily, Yang Kai was able to lure the Chaos Spirit King away thanks to the supreme-grade Open Heaven Pill. He had executed the Three Selves Source Reconstitution art in haste and did not have much time to consider other things. He had no choice but to rely on this method to help the humans here escape their current crisis. In any case, both Yang Kai and Emo Na Yi were not in their best condition. As such, the intensity of their battle had greatly reduced. A fierce struggle ensued. Yang Kai quickly glanced over at the humans' defensive line and found that even with Yang Shui's help, it was still difficult for them to gain the upper hand. He could do nothing about this, though, as the pseudo-royal lords and territory lords far outnumbered the Eighth Order masters. Furthermore, after receiving Emo Na Yi's order, the Black Ink clan were attacking without any care for their own casualties and were using all means possible to break through the defensive line. Territory lords and Eighth Order masters were dying frequently as Black Ink's strength exploded, world force dispersed, and small universes shattered. Everyone knew that in today's battle, the outcome of any battlefront would affect the overall situation. As long as one side won any battlefront, they would win the entire war. Yang Kai knew that he could not delay any longer. He was still confident that he could kill Emo Na Yi, and judging by the current situation, Emo Na Yi would definitely die under his spear within half an hour. But half an hour was too large a variable, as the humans' defensive line might be breached at any time. After hesitating for a moment, Yang Kai made his decision. As Yang Kai thrust the Azure Dragon Spear, the opposing Emo Na Yi promptly pulled back, wanting to avoid the blow. However, he didn't expect that this spear was just a feint. The space-time river that had been swirling around it suddenly flew out like a water dragon and expanded with a loud splash, transforming into an enormous river that gushed through the void. Emo Na Yi's expression immediately changed at the sight of the enormous river crashing towards him. He had suffered many losses because of the space-time river previously. At that time, Yang Kai, who was leading an 8 trigrams battle formation, had used the space-time river as a whip. When Emo Na Yi was struck by the space-time river, the various Tao strengths had thrown his mind into a disarray, rendering him stunned. So, when he saw Yang Kai use the strange river once more, he naturally became vigilant, his figure flickering as he tried to escape in between the gaps. Seal! Yang Kai shouted as the overflowing river suddenly connected end to end, taking a circular shape. The next moment, the turbulent river water started spreading outward, filling the entire void. Emo Na Yi had never expected for the river to transform like this and was struck by a wave, which immediately destabilized him. By then, Yang Kai had already arrived, hurling his spear at him and shouting, "Die!" The spear attack felt as if it was piercing through space and time. It was emanating fearsome, murderous intent and was extremely powerful. Emo Na Yi definitely could not take it in his current condition. If he really got impaled by this spear, he would be dead or not that far from it. In a hurry, his figure suddenly sank, plunging into the enormous river. Yang Kai's spear missed Emo Na Yi and pierced the empty void, but he did not stop even for a moment and also plunged into the river in a flash. From the start, Yang Kai wanted to force Emo Na Yi into the space-time river. He had used this method to kill some territory lords before, but this was the first time he had forced a royal lord into the space-time river. The space-time river was the manifestation of his Tao strengths and took his space and time Tao strengths as its foundation. 10,000 Tao strengths fused and clashed with each other in the space-time river. Although Yang Kai had an absolute geographical advantage when fighting in the space-time river, once the battle became too intense, it would definitely impact his own Tao strengths. This was no different than trapping a thief in one's own house and throwing him against the walls. Although it was possible to borrow the terrain to one's advantage, it could also possibly wreck their house. It was still all right if it was just a territory lord, as their strength was not enough to shake the foundation of the space-time river, but a true royal lord was another matter. As such, Yang Kai was putting himself at a huge risk, but this was the only way to kill Emo Na Yi in the shortest time possible. Yang Kai really could not worry too much about it if he wanted to win. Martial Peak, Chapter 5793, Even an old dog has a few teeth left. Yang Kai was dead set on killing Imo Naiyi, his murderous intent soaring to a whole new height. When the space-time river sealed off the void, it forced Imo Naiyi inside, whereupon Yang Kai rushed after him. In an instant, the space-time river that had formed a large sphere became extremely turbulent. Waves rose and fell, spewing Dao strength and black ink strength randomly. With the space-time river isolating everything, no one could see the battle, but they could clearly tell how dangerous it was from the upheaval in the space-time river. The black ink clansmen's hearts all jumped to their throats. If Imo Naiyi was defeated and died here, the Black Ink clan would not be able to survive much longer. After all, they would have to face the infamous Killing Star. With his means and brutality, he would not stop until he killed all of the Black Ink clansmen here. All of them were now thinking how they could get out of this situation. Perhaps the pseudo-royal lords could rush into the river to help Imo Naiyi, but at this moment, the pseudo-royal lords were unable to move about freely as they were tied up with their respective opponents. This was especially true for the pseudo-royal lords who were fighting against Yang Shui. Once they withdrew, she would definitely launch a fierce counterattack, which would result in far greater casualties. And once the Black Ink clan their advantage, they would no longer be able to turn the tide. More importantly, even if they really want to help, no one could say for sure how useful they would be. After all, Yang Kai's space-time river was too mysterious. Somewhere in the void, Tian Xiaozhu and several other Eighth Order masters formed a six-paths formation to pin down Meng Quebec. This was the steadiest battlefront of them all, as both sides were quite lacking in comparison to other fights both in number and strength. On top of that, the Eighth Order masters as well as Meng Ke were heavily injured. Although the Eighth Order masters were barely able to maintain their battle formation, it was still a little difficult for them to display its full power. It could not be helped as two of the Eighth Order masters in it had originally withdrawn from the 8 trigrams formation because they could not withstand the pressure due to their wounds. They had been fighting Imo Naiyi with Yang Kai and were completely exhausted already. The only reason they were still able to fight was because they refused to back down. It was a shocking display of pure grit and willpower. After this battle, these two Eighth Order Masters' foundations would definitely be severely damaged regardless of whether they won or lost. Thus, Tian Xiaozhu and the others only managed to gain a slight upper hand against a heavily injured pseudo-royal lord like Meng Ke, and were unable to kill him. Amidst the heated battle, Meng Ke angrily shouted, "Old dog, I've had it with you." He was furious. Usually, even if a group of old, weak, and injured people like them assumed a six-paths formation, they would not be able to do anything to him, but he too was not in a good condition, allowing him to be suppressed by the enemy. If this continued, he would quite likely die. 2 pseudo-royal lords had already perished in this battle, both of them at Yang Kai's hands. One of them was killed by Yang Kai's sneak attack, while the other was killed after Yang Kai broke through to the Ninth Order Open Heaven realm. Be that as it may, if a pseudo-royal lord like him was really to die at the hands of ordinary Eighth Order masters, it would be too embarrassing. He was the 3rd pseudo-royal lord born in the Black Ink clan. If not for the unlucky timing, he would have become famous throughout the 3,000 worlds, standing on equal footing with Imo Naiyi. For someone like Meng Ke, even if he died, he wanted to die at the hands of famous figures like Yang Kai or Xiang Shan. He would never allow himself to die at the hands of these nameless ants. Meng Ke's attacks became fiercer, fueled by his anger. He knew that his end was nigh. As such, he did not care about his own safety. Old dog. Right across from him, Tian Xiaozhu, who was covered in blood, had his expression become fierce as he roared, "Today, I'll let you know that this old dog still has a few teeth left." Facing Meng Ke's powerful counterattack, not only did he not retreat, he instead charged straight at him, leading the battle formation, seemingly intent on perishing together with his enemy. The other Eighth Order Masters, including Lin Wu who had joined last, followed after him without any hesitation. Under the violent collision, the already unstable six-paths formation nearly collapsed. Fortunately, Tian Xiaozhu quickly adjusted everyone's aura, ensuring its continuous operation. However, this clash further worsened everyone's injuries, with the two most severely injured 8th Order Masters nearly fainting. It wasn't like Ming Ke didn't suffer from this desperate attack, though, as his aura suddenly waned and black ink strength spurted uncontrollably from his wounds. Looking at the fearless 8th Order human masters and the human he had called Old Dog, Ming Ke could not help feeling some admiration. The human race is indeed incredible. Adjusting his chaotic aura and state of mind, he suddenly burst into laughter and pointed his halberd at Tian Xiuzhu. What a sharp-tongued old dog. Come, let's see who dies here today, you or I. I, Ming Ke, am just unlucky. I am not inferior to you, Emo Na Yi. Even if I die, I will still shine brilliantly in the end. As soon as he finished speaking, his aura soared as he charged straight at the Six Paths formation. How could Tian Xiuzhu and the others back down when challenged so openly? They quickly adjusted the battle formation before rushing forward to meet Ming Quebec. Both sides clashed a few more times, without even the slightest sign of retreating. Ming Ke was nearly demented in his onslaught, as his body bordered on collapse. The 8th Order Masters, led by Tian Xiuzhu, did not fare any better. Their battle formation was unstable, and all of them had suffered critical wounds. All were hovering between life and death. The next clash would decide the victor and loser, who would live and who would die. Tian Xiuzhu shouted loudly, "This Tian is lucky to have fought with you all today. If there is a next life, I hope that we will fight shoulder to shoulder once more to kill the enemy." Kill, kill, kill. Everyone's eyes turned red. Although their auras were unstable and figures unsteady, their murderous intent shot through the sky. After forcefully adjusting everyone's chaotic aura and stabilizing himself, Tian Xiuzhu let out a long sigh before shouting, "Kill." The Six Paths formation left a streak of light as it charged straight towards Ming Quebec. A grim and dignified look appeared on Ming Ke's face as he glanced towards the space-time river, coldly snorting in his heart, "Whether you see it or not, I, Ming Ke, will not disappoint the title of Black Ink Clan's pseudo-royal lord." Kill! As he shouted, Ming Ke surged his black ink strength as he smashed into the Six Paths formation. In this stretch of the void, where violent shockwaves appeared everywhere, the collision between 6 8th Order Masters and one pseudo-royal lord was far from spectacular, but it was the last glimmering of both sides who were willing to lay down their lives for their convictions. When the two streaks of light, one bright and one dark, crashed into each other, the entire world seemed to have frozen for a moment before 7 figures were sent flying in different directions. Immediately after, small universes collapsed and world force dissipated as someone's vitality began to wane. Of the 6 8th Order Masters who formed the Six Paths formation, 3 of them died on the spot. Ming Ke's vitality had also become dismal, and his strength started to dissipate. At this moment, he didn't even have the strength to lift a finger. Furthermore, there were no allies around him on this battlefront who could save him. As he lay there dying, he could not help but glance over at the space-time river and mock himself silently. He was the 3rd pseudo-royal lord to be created, but he had never imagined that he would become the 3rd pseudo-royal lord to die today. It was truly ironic. When humans die in battle, their names are engraved on the monument of heroes for future generations to remember their sacrifices. But what about the Black Ink Clan? What do we gain from sacrificing our lives? The space-time river was still full of upheavals, naturally due to the clash between 2 top masters. Every time a wave rose, everyone could hear a faint dragon roar. Suddenly, a fearsome blast of energy blew up a part of the space-time river off, opening a hole in the already unstable flow. Immediately after, a figure in a wretched condition leapt out of that hole. Surprisingly, it was Emo Na Yi. At this moment, Emo Na Yi was in an extremely sorry state. There was a huge gaping hole that went from the front of his chest to the back. The black ink strength in his body was surging and fear was written on his face. Yang Kai had gone mad and resorted to every means possible to kill him as quickly as possible. Emo Na Yi was simply no match for Yang Kai in the space-time river. All Yang Kai needed to do was fight steadily while controlling his space-time river, and Emo Na Yi would certainly have perished. However, Yang Kai didn't choose this route. After gaining a bit of upper hand, he directly summoned his dragon bead. Yang Kai was no longer a 99,999-meter-long ancient dragon. After his three selves merged and his source had fused with them, he immediately became a divine dragon. With the strengthening of his dragon vein, Yang Kai's dragon bead received a significant boost in power. Using their dragon bead to launch an attack was the final trump of a dragon clansman, one they would not resort to unless it was absolutely necessary. Yang Kai had once used this method in the past to great effect each time. He was currently many times stronger than before, so how could the heavily injured Imo Nai resist the dragon bead's attack? The hole in his chest was the result, and this injury was more than enough to push Imo Nai half into the grave. However, the dragon bead's fearsome attack also allowed Imo Nai to escape. The battle between the two top masters had already made the space-time river unstable, and the flow of Dao strengths inside chaotic. The dragon bead's attack had not only severely injured Imo Nai, but it also blew open a hole in the space-time river. Yang Kai had already expected this, but he had no choice but to do it. Only such an attack could quickly kill Imo Nai. When Imo Nai escaped, Yang Kai followed close behind, but the turbulence in the space-time river caused his Dao strength to become unstable, making it difficult for him to gather his strength. As such, he had no choice but to stabilize his Dao strengths first. Right then, an indignant roar suddenly reverberated across the void. Imo Nai, this old master won't submit to you. I'll never bow to someone like you. It was Meng Ke, who was also just a moment away from dying. And why is it that you have always been in charge of the Black Ink clan? Why is it that the Sir Royal Lord never gave me a chance? Why must I hide in the no-return pass all this time, just because you became the pseudo-royal lord before me? If I, Meng Ke, could wield greater authority, I would not have been any worse than you. With this roar, Meng Ke used all his remaining strength to rush towards Imo Nai. No one knew what he wanted to do, and even Imo Nai was stunned for a moment before a heavy sigh escaped his lips. Others might not have any idea what Meng Ke was about to do, but he did. Imo Nai never thought that in the critical moment between life and death, it would be Meng Ke, whom he had always looked down upon, who would come to his aid. Martial Peak, Chapter 5794. What's going on? Meng Ke was on the verge of death. His entire body was covered in wounds, and his vitality was fading. Even if no one did anything to him, he would not last more than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. And naturally, Imo Nai could also see this. Perhaps it was because he was about to die that he was making such a surprising move. On the other hand, although Tian Xiaozhu and the others did not know what Meng Ke was planning to do, his actions were definitely far from normal. While Tian Xiaozhu and the others may have been oblivious, they still wanted to stop Meng Ke, but how could they do anything about it when they could not even gather their strength? 3 of their members had perished in the last exchange, and the 3 who were still alive were hanging by a breath. They had no choice but to helplessly watch Meng Ke approach Imo Nai, shining brilliantly like the last radiance of a setting sun. He looked like he wanted to kill Imo Nai immediately. And coupled with Meng Ke's furious roars, they all thought that there was some kind of irreconcilable grudge between these two. Otherwise, why would Meng Ke still be so indignant even on the verge of death? In a flash, Meng Ke arrived before Imo Nai and their eyes met. Imo Nai's eyes happened to be filled with bitterness, while Meng Ke's eyes were shining brilliantly like raging fire, fueled by his last remaining life force. The next moment, Meng Ke's body quivered as he gathered all his strength, and his black ink strength madly surged out. The richness and purity of that black ink strength had far exceeded the norm. In the blink of an eye, an enormous black ink cloud appeared in the place where Meng Ke once was and wrapped itself around Imo Nai before pouring into his body through his nose, mouth, and wounds like a living creature. Subsequently, Imo Nai's fading aura began to recover at a rate visible to the naked eye. Even the hole in his chest began to slowly close up. Correspondingly, Meng Ke's aura and vitality rapidly dwindled. Damn it! Tian Xiaozhu cursed through his teeth. After seeing this, How could he not tell that Meng Ke was not trying to harm Emo Nai, but was instead trying to heal him? Although he had no idea what kind of profound secret technique Meng Ke had used, it was an undeniable fact that Emo Nai was recovering. Never had this secret technique appeared before, nor had the humans ever seen it, so no one had been on guard against Meng Ke's actions before his death. Furthermore, no one had any strength to stop him either. After sparing no effort, Yang Kai finally critically wounded Emo Nai, but if the latter were to recover, all previous efforts would go down the drain. Tian Zhu grit his teeth and gathered his strength, wanting to stop Meng Ke. However, as soon as he circulated his strength, his face turned pale and his mind went blank. The previous battle had exhausted all his small universe's strength, so now when he forcefully tried mustering it, his small universe immediately became unstable. At this moment, Tian Zhu no longer had any strength left to fight, and the other two Eighth Order Masters were in even more precarious states. After all, the foundation of a veteran Eighth Order Master like Tian Zhu was still sturdier than that of the new generation Eighth Order Masters. Meanwhile, Yang Kai too wanted to stop it after seeing this, but he too was powerless to do anything. His Dao strength was left in extreme disarray after his dragon bead attack had blown open a hole in the space-time river. As such, he needed to quickly stabilize it. A short while later, the black ink cloud around Emo Nai finally disappeared, but Meng Ke's figure was nowhere to be seen. It was as if this pseudo-royal lord had poured all of his energy into Emo Nai's body before his death, helping him heal and recover. Emo Nai had indeed recovered a little and many of his wounds had healed, but it was far from enough. Emo Nai was a royal lord now, so the more serious his injuries were, the harder it was for him to recover. The infusion of a dying pseudo-royal lord's essence could do nothing about it. If he wanted to recover completely, he would need the infusion of the source of all the pseudo-royal lords present here. But this type of infusion could only be used voluntarily, and why would these pseudo-royal lords voluntarily kill themselves? Meng Ke's act of coming to his aid at the last moment already came as a surprise to Emo Nai. After all, they had never been on good terms. For that reason, Meng Ke's last words seemed to echo so loudly in his ears. "Live, you must live on. The Black Ink Clan is too stupid and ignorant. Only by living can you finally help the Supreme One complete its grand plan." Emo Nai suddenly realized that he had been underestimating Meng Ke all along. The reckless arrogance Meng Ke had displayed before him might have just been a front. "I misjudged him." Emo Nai silently mocked himself. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the void as Yang Kai furiously shouted, "Emo Nai, today you die." Emo Nai, who had just recovered a little, immediately looked up, only to see Yang Kai hastily stabilizing his mind and his Dao strengths before charging straight at him with his spear. Emo Nai's heart was filled with bitterness, knowing that he had failed to live up to Meng Ke's expectations. Against someone like Yang Kai, if he couldn't defeat him, the only thing that awaited him next was death. As for escaping, it was naturally impossible to do so against a master of the Tao of space. Yang Kai escaped from the pursuit of the Black Ink Clan many times. The reverse had never happened. Since there was no way out, Emo Nai had no choice but to fight. If Meng Ke was willing to sacrifice himself, so why could he not? "Yang Kai!" Emo Nai furiously roared, grinding his teeth. He did not retreat this time, but rather took the initiative to charge Yang Kai. The two clashed again. In the last confrontation, Yang Kai had the absolute upper hand. He even managed to fatally injure Emo Nai using his dragon bead. Although Meng Ke had used a secret technique to help Emo Nai steady himself, this kind of injury could not be so easily healed. So, when they were locked in another round of confrontation, Emo Nai was still no match for Yang Kai. Had he not recovered a little thanks to Meng Ke's help, he would have died within 5 moves. It was only because of Meng Ke's sacrifice that Emo Nai was able to even fight back against Yang Kai. Various Dao strengths converged and merged, while Black Ink strength fiercely surged as the two figures clashed with each other. They flew around the void, attacking each other with deadly intent. Every clash would leave them injured, splashing their golden and black blood everywhere. After an extremely fierce collision, the two figures respectively flew backward. Yang Kai quickly came to a stop and stood completely still. His face kept distorting with various expressions, as if something was terribly wrong. Emo Nai, on the other hand, flew far away, tumbling many times through the void. After he somehow stabilized himself, he spurted a mouthful of black blood. Immediately afterwards, he looked in Yang Kai's direction, seemingly sensing something. He did not know whether it was all an illusion, but he felt that Yang Kai's strength was unstable at the moment. Regardless of whether it was an illusion or not, the fact was that Emo Nai was on the verge of dying again. Regardless of what happened to Yang Kai, he would definitely end up dead if the fight continued. Meng Kei's last words once again echoed in his ears. "Live, you must live on." It was indeed difficult to escape before someone proficient in the Tao of space, but how would he know if he didn't even try? He wasn't someone who was afraid of death, but how could he be willing to die when the Black Ink Clan's great task of unifying the 3,000 worlds was still not complete? He wanted to live not for himself, but for the Black Ink Clan's grand ambition. Having made his mind, Emo Nai instantly turned around and fled. "You want to run? In your dreams." Yang Kai grit his teeth and shouted when he saw Emo Nai flee. He promptly activated his space secret technique to chase after him. But right then, the entire universe furnace world suddenly started quaking as another Grand Tao evolution took place. The Grand Tao of the universe furnace had evolved many times already, and with each evolution, the chaotic shattered Tao essence that filled the universe furnace world disappeared, replaced by order and stability. At the same time the Grand Tao started evolving, everything suddenly went blurry before Yang Kai, making it impossible for him to pursue Emo Nai. It was only after a short while that he could finally see clearly again. The Grand Tao evolution had also come to an end by then. However, Yang Kai still appeared to be in a daze. He stood in his place, looking around, exclaiming, "What's going on?" This question left members of both the human race and the Black Ink Clan confused. Yang Lai even more anxiously shouted, "Quickly kill Emo Nai." This was a rare opportunity. If they let Emo Nai escape this time, it would be difficult to find him again. Right now, Emo Nai was not just an intelligent commander of the Black Ink Clan, but also a true royal lord. He was a massive threat to the human race. What was Yang Kai hesitating about? This was a good opportunity to cut weeds and pull out roots. Yang Kai remained dazed for a moment before immediately releasing his divine sense. After sensing the direction of Emo Nai's escape, he promptly gave chase. Yang Lai finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, Yang Kai soon returned with the Azure Dragon spear in hand, and a helpless look on his face. He kept moving his joints from time to time, raising his arms and legs as if he were very uncomfortable. "Is he dead?" Yang Lai hurriedly asked, finding it very strange that he had not sensed Emo Nai's fall. Even if he had escaped far away, it was still impossible for a royal lord to die without any sound or disturbance. "I couldn't catch up." Yang Kai angrily lashed out. "Couldn't catch up?" Yang Lai simply thought that he heard it wrong. "How could you not catch up? How could anyone escape from you? What the hell is wrong?" Yang Lai tightly furrowed his brow. He instinctively felt that something was off. If he was not so familiar with Yang Kai, he would have thought someone was pretending to be him. But after carefully observing him, he felt that the current Yang Kai was indeed a little different from the one he was familiar with. As for what was different about him, he could not put his finger on it. In any case, he did not have much time to think about it now, so Yang Lai just shouted, "Then let's kill this one." It was a pity Emo Nai had escaped, but another royal lord was still present. Killing him would also be a big haul. Thanks to the appearance of the universe furnace, the Black Ink Clan had managed to gain 2 royal lords. One of them might have escaped with serious injuries, but they could not let the other one run away as well. Fine. Yang Kai lifted his Azure Dragon spear and waddled towards the battlefield like a penguin. Something's wrong. Elsewhere, Yang Xiao, who was leading a 6 paths formation to fight a pseudo-royal lord, had also noticed this. Although he had not spent much time with young Kai, the latter was still his adoptive father. As such, young Xiao was quite familiar with him. At this moment, his adoptive father gave him a very strange feeling, as if he was a completely different person. "What's wrong?" Blood Crow asked casually. "I think that's not my adoptive father." Yang Xiao frowned. Blood Crow sneered. "If that's not your adoptive father, who else could it be?" His ninth order open heaven realm aura was unmistakable. How could anyone pretend to be Yang Kai down to the most minute details and even carry the Azure Dragon Spear? If someone could imitate another to the point that he was absolutely indistinguishable from the original, it would be truly shocking. Martial Peak, Chapter 5795, Death of a Royal Lord. While Yang Xiao and Blood Crow were secretly communicating, Yang Kai broke one of the four symbols formation formed by the four territory lords with his spear. After engaging in a fierce battle, although both Yang Kai and Imo Nai were dead tired, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. In any case, he was a divine dragon and a ninth order open heaven realm master, so how could four mere territory lords resist him? In addition, Yang Kai's infamy also made the territory lords extremely fearful. Seeing Yang Kai charging towards them, whether it was the territory lords or Xiaoyu, who was fighting Ouyang Lai, all of them became fearful. Under such circumstances, how could a four symbols formation stop Yang Kai's rampage charge? He easily broke the battle formation after just a few attacks. Without the support of the battle formation, the four territory lords were quickly slaughtered by Yang Kai one after another. But suddenly, Yang Kai frowned and stowed the Azure Dragon Spear back in his small universe, all while muttering, "Annoying." Saying so, Yang Kai's body went down on his fours as an intense hostility and murderous intent broke out from him, like he was a ferocious beast that had been trapped for 10,000 years. He then slightly raised his head and stared in the direction of the other four symbols formation. The next moment, a mysterious energy surged from him before he disappeared, as if he had never been there. Inside the four symbols formation, the four territory lords were frightened like birds startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. After all, they had just witnessed their four companions being easily killed by Yang Kai. Now that it was their turn, how could they remain indifferent? Even before Yang Kai reappeared, the four territory lords, who had been struggling to maintain their battle formation, became extremely unsettled. Suddenly, a flash of lightning appeared before Yang Kai's figure emerged behind a territory lord out of thin air, his hand suddenly thrusting towards the territory lord like a beast's claw. Furthermore, lightning was crackling around his palm. By the time Yang Kai pulled his hand back, a huge, gaping hole had appeared in that territory lord's body while lightning crackled around the wound. The violent lightning energy made the territory lord shake uncontrollably. Immediately after, Yang Kai burst into laughter. "Better." Ouyang Lai's eyes shrank upon seeing this. He had immediately realized something. On another side, Yang Zhao's eyes involuntarily widened as he blurted out, "Thunder Shadow Great Emperor." That strange offensive stance, the brutal way of killing his enemies, even the concealing divine ability and those violent thunder principles were exactly the same as Thunder Shadow Great Emperor whom Yang Kai had taken into his small universe. Blood Crow was also shocked beyond words. The other human race masters who saw this were also puzzled. What's going on? How did Yang Kai suddenly become Thunder Shadow Great Emperor? Was he possessed? At the same time, they also finally understood why Yang Kai had failed to kill Imo Nai. Indeed, it was meaningless to flee before someone proficient in the Tao of space. But what if Thunder Shadow Great Emperor had occupied Yang Kai's body? He was not proficient in the Tao of space, so if Imo Nai wanted to escape, he could be helpless. While everyone was still in shock, Thunder Shadow had already killed all four remaining territory lords, cutting them down like vegetables. After that, he had concealed himself once more, and thanks to Yang Kai's Ninth Order Foundation, Thunder Shadow's concealment became even more mysterious and unpredictable. Even Ouyang Lai could not find any trace of him. As for Xiaoyu, he was incomparably depressed. Originally, He was seriously injured by Yang Shui's sneak attack and was already having a hard time fighting Ouyang Lai. The only reason he had been able to hold on until now was thanks to the 8 territory lords who were assisting him, but now that they had been killed by Yang Kai, he would definitely not be able to hold on anymore. The only reason he was still alive was because Ouyang Lai was somewhat dazed and confused. However, with a powerful enemy like Yang Kai lurking nearby, ready to attack at any moment, Xiao Yu's heart was firmly lodged in his throat. He didn't feel safe at all even when he was on full alert. Thunder Shadow, what happened to Yang Kai? Ouyang Lai grit his teeth and shouted, not letting down his guard just because the Thunder Shadow had killed the 8 territory lords. He knew about the 3 selves source reconstitution art, and that the union of 3 selves was the key to Yang Kai's breakthrough to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm, but by the looks of it, something had gone wrong with the 3 selves source reconstitution art, which resulted in Thunder Shadow occupying Yang Kai's body. Of course, Thunder Shadow was also part of Yang Kai, but he was not Yang Kai, so Ouyang Lai had no choice but to ask. Suddenly, Yang Kai's figure appeared with a flash of lightning as he ruthlessly clawed towards Xiao Yu's head. Xiao Yu had been on guard the entire time, so when he sensed danger, he promptly turned around and threw a punch, barely managing to resolve the crisis. But taking advantage of this opportunity, Ouyang Lai also attacked Xiao Yu, and his attack managed to land. Thunder Shadow couldn't help but click his tongue before he once again concealed himself while sending Divine Sense transmission to Ouyang Lai. Big Brother's Dao strength became unstable in the last battle. Also, he was too exhausted after suffering repeated serious injuries. He's currently in a deep sleep, but don't worry, he should recover after a while. After a momentary pause, he added, "Stop wasting your breath. Let's get this over with first." Ouyang Lai nodded lightly in agreement. Long story short, Yang Kai's problem wasn't very big, but there was a big problem with the 3 self source reconstitution art. Regardless, it was not the time to mull over such matters. Whether Yang Kai would suffer a mishap or not remained to be seen. The most important thing right now was to deal with the remaining Black Ink clan. Immediately, Ouyang Lai straightened his thoughts and attacked again with renewed focus. With Ouyang Lai suppressing Xiao Yu and creating opportunities, it became much easier for Thunder Shadow to launch sneak attacks. Every time Xiao Yu was caught off guard, Thunder Shadow would suddenly appear and fiercely attack before going into hiding again. Every strike put Xiao Yu in agony, gradually worsening his injuries further. From the start, Xiao Yu was not Ouyang Lai's opponent because of his grave injuries, so when an expert like Thunder Shadow was hiding in the dark nearby, attacking him at every opportunity, it became impossible for Xiao Yu to survive. Compared to Ouyang Lai, the hidden Thunder Shadow posed a much greater threat to Xiao Yu. We lost. The Black Ink clan completely lost this time. At first, the Black Ink clan had the advantage, but things took a turn for the worse when Yang Kai suddenly advanced to the 9th Order. The straw that broke the camel's back was Emo Na Ye's escape at the last moment, which ruined the Black Ink clan's last hope of victory. Nonetheless, Xiao Yu also knew that if Emo Na Ye had not run, he would have been the first to die. At that time, escaping was the only option for Emo Na Ye. As such, although Xiao Yu held some resentment towards Emo Na Ye, he did not hate him. If he was in Emo Na Ye's position, he would have made the same choice. Now that he was being targeted by 2 9th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters though, Xiao Yu knew his death was assured, so his mindset changed as he became determined to make the most of the time he had left. There were many Black Ink clansmen on the battlefield. Xiao Yu could not let them all die. Withdraw and escape. Xiao Yu suddenly shouted to the Black Ink clan troops who were besieging the human race's defensive line. The moment he gave this order, the Black Ink clansmen scattered without a moment of hesitation, as if they had been waiting for those exact words all along. The tides were already not in their favor, which anyone could see. Emo Na Ye had already fled, and it was difficult to tell whether Xiao Yu would survive or not. If the remaining territory lords and pseudo-royal lords didn't run now, when Xiao Yu was killed and the 2 9th Order Masters became free to act, none of them would be able to escape. Previously, they had not fled because they didn't dare to, but now that Xiao Yu had given them the order, how could they hesitate? All the Black Ink clansmen fled, and the human race masters, who were originally having a hard time, were freed all of a sudden. Yang Shui let out a cold snort and stared at a pseudo-royal lord before giving chase. She also knew that it was impossible to eliminate all of the Black Ink clan troops, so she decided to target the pseudo-royal lords, who were stronger than the others, and eliminate as many as possible. Pursue them, Xiang Shan shouted. Having been an army commander for millennia, he was well versed in the art of war. In battle, the best time to get results was when chasing a fleeing enemy. At least half of all kills were generally obtained during this time, while it was extremely hard to eliminate an opponent when two armies were confronting each other head-on. So naturally, when the Black Ink clan started fleeing in every direction, it was a good opportunity for the humans to chase and slaughter them. As for how many they could kill, that would depend on luck and methods. The faster Black Ink clansmen fled into the distance in the blink of an eye, while the slower ones suffered. The humans had been suppressed since the beginning of this battle, so after having gone through so much hardship, they had a lot of anger and resentment bottled up in their hearts, which they finally got a chance to vent. Suddenly, small battles broke out all across the void, with the sound of territory lords falling occurring frequently. Seeing this, Yang Lai shouted anxiously, "Finish him quickly." As long as Xiao Yu was alive, he and Thunder Shadow would be tied down with him. They had to kill Xiao Yu as soon as possible so that they could join the pursuit of the other Black Ink clansmen. This was a rare opportunity. If they could kill even half of the Black Ink clan masters present here, it would definitely lift a lot of pressure from the human race in the near future. With two Ninth Order masters acting together, one in the open and one in the dark, it was impossible for the injured Xiao Yu to survive even if he was a true royal lord. Under the repeated sneak attacks of the Thunder Shadow, Xiao Yu's injuries slowly piled up, but he still went all out to hold on as long as possible, just to buy more time for the other Black Ink clansmen to escape. However, there was still a limit. Thunder Shadow, controlling Yang Kai's body, suddenly reappeared behind Xiao Yu and punched out. Lightning flashed and the power of thunder exploded, almost blowing his head off on the spot. Surrounded by lightning, Xiao Yu violently convulsed and lost all control over his body. At that exact moment, he saw Yang Lai's long blade swinging towards him, but he was unable to defend himself. Die! Yang Lai roared as he used all his strength to cut Xiao Yu in half. The aura of a royal lord suddenly flared up before vanishing. The next moment, Black Ink strength along with pitch-black blood gushed out from Xiao Yu's two halves. In response, Yang Lai did nothing. He just stood there with his saber, letting the black blood stain his body as he shouted, "Good?" Thousands of years had passed since the devastating war in the Barren Territory, and this was the first time a royal lord had been killed since then, and he was killed by Yang Lai. It was a glorious moment. The next instant, Yang Kai, who was moving like a beast the entire time, also appeared nearby. Yang Lai glanced at him as the corner of his mouth twitched. He could not help but wonder what kind of expression Yang Kai would make when he recalled this scene after regaining consciousness. However, Thunder Shadow could not be blamed for this either. Thunder Shadow had always lived in the myriad monster world, cultivating the primal art and tempering his monster core. He had never taken on human form, nor did he have the ability to do so. He had always maintained his beast-like appearance, so suddenly asking him to smoothly control Yang Kai's body and act like a human was impossible. So, it was better for Thunder Shadow to simply act in accordance with his original nature. "Don't just stand there. Kill." Thunder Shadow shouted as lightning crackled around him before he transformed into a streak of light that chased after the fleeing enemies. Yang Lai followed closely behind. A short while later, shockwaves of a fierce fight could be felt coming from the distant void. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5796, Difficult. The human race masters were not pursuing the enemy aimlessly and haphazardly, especially since the Black Ink clan outnumbered them still. If they gave chase without any plan, it was likely the human race would suffer unnecessary casualties. Fortunately, Xiang Shan had quickly coordinated their efforts during the initial moments of the pursuit. All the humans assumed battle formations, and each battle formation would work in conjunction with one or two others, covering each other as they chased after the Black Ink clan. Although moving like this would result in fewer kills, it would ensure the safety of their troops. Furthermore, Xiang Shan had warned them not to maintain the chase too long. Those Black Ink clansmen here were definitely not all that had entered the universe furnace world. There were definitely many more of them hiding in the shadows, so it was imperative to act cautiously lest they fall into the enemy's trap. In short, the order was to kill all it was safe to kill before retreating. Nothing could be done about this, as after having fought continuously for days, every single human, whether weak or strong, whether newly promoted or veteran, had suffered some degree of injury, making it difficult for them to fight another prolonged battle. Only the 3 Ninth Order Masters were free to move about as they pleased. Whether it was Yang Shui, Yang Lai, or Thunder Shadow who had taken over Yang Kai's body temporarily, no Black Ink clansman in this universe furnace world could stop them. Thunder Shadow was on a rampage as all the Black Ink clansmen he encountered were killed without exception. Even the pseudo-royal lords did not escape. The chase lasted for several days before everyone started returning one after another. When Thunder Shadow returned from the distant void, he saw a large group of humans gathered at the original battlefield. Upon sensing an aura approaching, many divine senses swept over him, one after another. The corner of Thunder Shadow's mouth twitched as he muttered, "Second brother, you explain. I'm not good with words." Saying so, his eyes suddenly became dim and dull, but turned bright and lustrous once more the next moment. A bitter smile appeared on Yang Kai's lips as he slowly shook his head. The one that took over couldn't help but rebuke in his heart. He did not show any restraint when killing the enemy, but now he ditched explaining himself to our allies. Shameless. Nonetheless, some things were unavoidable, and one had to see them through whether they wanted to or not. He then straightened his clothes and surged space principles as he took a step forward. By the time he appeared next, he was already standing before the human race masters. Big brother? Yang Shui, who had been on tenterhooks all this time, had her eyes light up as she suddenly called out in surprise. She too had noticed that change in Yang Kai's behavior, but at that time, she was not that clear about the situation, nor did she have the time to inquire about it. Only after listening to Yang Lai's explanation did she learn that her big brother had cultivated a special technique that allowed him to tear his soul apart and form 2 soul clones. By uniting his 3 selves and fusing them into his source, he ultimately broke the shackles of the 8th Order Open Heaven realm and ascended to the 9th Order, allowing him to turn the tide of the battle. Unfortunately, something had gone wrong with this technique, which caused Yang Kai's consciousness to fall into a deep sleep and allowed Thunder Shadow Great Emperor's consciousness to take over his body. After listening to Yang Lai's explanation, everyone's doubts were finally cleared. The reason why Yang Kai's small universe was able to accommodate Feng Tianci, who was also an 8th Order Master, and Thunder Shadow Great Emperor who was in the same equivalent realm, was because those two were basically part of him to begin with. When Mo Nai fled, Yang Kai had given chase, but to no avail, because Thunder Shadow, who was not proficient in the Tao of Space, was in control of Yang Kai's body, which made it hard to catch up to Mo Nai. Everyone was secretly shocked by this revelation. Much to their surprise, there was such a profound method in this world that could allow one to break through the shackles of the open heaven realm, other than using a supreme-grade open heaven pill. This was definitely good news. It had to be known that there were countless human race masters stuck at the peak of the 8th Order Open Heaven realm. They had no chance of reaching the 9th Order Open Heaven realm in their lives, as they had already reached the limit of their martial Tao. Furthermore, it was extremely difficult to find supreme-grade open heaven pills, so if they could spread this technique, the human race might gain many more 9th Order Masters in the near future. Although judging by Yang Kai's previous performance, there were still some problems with this technique. Compared to advancing to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm, these trivial problems counted for nothing. This was definitely a technique that could change the current cultivation system of the human race. Thunder Shadow was not a master of the Tao of Space, so Yang Kai returning using a space secret technique caused Yang Shui to misunderstand. Yang Kai gently shook his head and explained, "Big brother is still asleep. I am Old Fong." Everyone looked at each other in dismay. First, Thunder Shadow took over Yang Kai's body, and now Feng Tian Ci. It looks like this three-selves source reconstitution art is quite problematic. A trace of disappointment flashed across young Shue's eyes, but since she was well acquainted with Feng Tian Ci, she pursed her lips and worriedly asked, "Can he wake up?" Feng Tian Ci replied, "Probably." "Probably?" Yang Lai furrowed his brow. This uncertain answer made him a little worried. Feng Tian Ci explained, "In order to kill Amo Nai as quickly as possible, Big Brother used his dragon bead to attack, which blew a hole in the space-time river, causing his Dao strengths to become unstable. Furthermore, the prolonged high-intensity battle further aggravated his injuries, which sent his consciousness into a kind of defensive deep slumber. However, it still hasn't reached the point of no return, so there's a good chance he will wake up. As for when, it's hard to say." Having finished explaining, a light chuckle escaped his lips before adding, "Everyone, there is no need to worry. Whether it's me or Thunder Shadow, both of us originate from him. In the end, we are basically only his soul clones. We might have our own thoughts, but we will not harm ourselves." He could also tell that the masters of the human race were worried that Yang Kai would never wake up again, or that one of the two would take his place. Thus, Feng Tian Ci had to give an explanation. Yang Xiao, who was hiding behind Yang Shui, repeatedly nodded, "Old Feng, I trust your character." Feng Tian Ci glanced at him, smiling meaningfully. Yang Zhao's face twitched as many complex emotions raged around inside him. He could not wait to tear open a void crack and crawl inside. Old Feng knew a lot of his secrets, many of which he had never told to anyone else. How could he have known that the seemingly honest and upright Old Feng was actually a soul clone of his adoptive father? Had he known about this, he would have never confided his private thoughts all these years. "It's over. I'm afraid I won't be able to face adoptive father again." Now that I think about it, Old Feng's behavior had indeed been a bit strange these past few years. He would occasionally give me that meaningful smile. "Junior Brother Feng, do you think that we can promote the three-selves source reconstitution art to the rest of the human race?" Xiang Shan asked. The group of veteran 8th Order masters, cultivating and recovering in the vicinity these past few days, couldn't help but perk up their ears. This matter was of grave importance as it was related to their future, and whether they could advance to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm or not. Feng Tian Ci replied calmly, "This three-selves source reconstitution art was passed down to us by Wu Kuang. Wu Kuang can be considered martial ancestor Shi's reincarnation, and this secret technique was also derived from him. This secret technique may seem profound and powerful, but it actually has a lot of limitations. First of all, you need to be able to split your soul basically in half to create a special soul clone. That step alone is easier said than done for most." "You need to split your soul in half?" Yang Lai couldn't help but exclaim. Although Yang Kai had told him about the three-selves source reconstitution art, he did not tell him the exact details or how it was executed. After hearing the actual process from Feng Tian Ci, he finally understood how dangerous it was. Severing one's soul was no joke and was extremely difficult to recover from. Feng Tian Ci nodded his affirmation. "When you split your soul in two, the corresponding pain and injury is not something an ordinary person can endure. If something goes wrong, you might lose your mind and become crazed, which is the best-case scenario. In the worst case, your soul will simply be extinguished and you will die on the spot. Furthermore, this process must be done twice. To cultivate two clones, one naturally had to split their soul twice, so the risk of dying was also doubled. The reason why Big Brother was able to bear this pain is because he has often used soul-rending thorns over the years to fight the Black Ink Clan, so he is somewhat used to the pain of his soul being torn apart. Moreover, he also has the soul-warming lotus that can nourish and protect his soul, so even if his soul is split into two, he can recover. Of course, the soul-warming lotus can be lent out, so if someone is willing to try it, I think Big Brother won't mind." Realization immediately dawned upon Yang Lai. No wonder Yang Kai had to enter retreat for many years every once in a while. It turns out that he was recuperating. That's also why there was such a large gap between your and Thunder Shadow's first appearance. Feng Tianci nodded. First, Big Brother nurtured me in his small universe. Then after repairing his soul, he nurtured Thunder Shadow. In addition, severing one soul isn't the most difficult part. Comparatively speaking, there is another problem that the current humans cannot solve. What's that? Xiang Shan asked. Feng Tianci explained. The three selves source reconstitution art requires one to have a divine spirit self, monster self, and human self. Only by combining these three selves can one break through the shackles of the open heaven realm. As a human, the human self is naturally available, and it's not difficult to obtain a monster self either. There are many monster beasts in the myriad monster world now, so it's easy to find a newborn monster beast cub that would otherwise die if left alone. But where can one find a divine spirit to create a divine spirit self? The current era was not the primordial era when the divine spirits ruled the universe and could be found anywhere. As the universe changed and evolved, the divine spirits' population dwindled. Many divine spirits and their respective bloodlines vanished in the river of time. Although there were still a few divine spirits remaining, most had already reached the point where it was difficult to pass down their bloodline, leading them to the brink of extinction. The divine spirits that had the greatest number was the Dragon Clan, but even they had 200 members at most. A monster self could be cultivated by going to the myriad monster world and nurturing a monster beast cub, but what about a divine spirit self? Could they ask a divine spirit for their descendants? Who would dare to do that? Who could even be successful? The divine spirits would definitely not agree, and forcefully doing so would only enrage the divine spirits. The cons heavily outweighed the pros. The difficulty of tearing apart one's soul and the difficulty of cultivating a divine spirit self were huge obstacles in using the three selves source reconstitution art. Yang Lai heaved a heavy sigh. Although he had expected this, he still couldn't hide his disappointment. It really isn't that easy. If it was easy, or if there was even a bit of hope, with Yang Kai's character, he would have never kept this method to himself. He would have disseminated it ages ago before anyone even asked him to. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5797. Who said I failed? Since Yang Kai had not passed down this cultivation technique for so many years, it meant that it was not suitable for others. He had a divine spirit self, as well as the soul-warming lotus, so it could be said that the three selves source reconstitution art was simply tailor-made for him and no one else could imitate his success. All the Eighth Order masters in the vicinity, who were listening to this conversation, had a disappointed expression appear on their faces. The three selves source reconstitution art was an astonishing technique, but it was unsuitable for the general public to cultivate and thus couldn't be disseminated. As such, it didn't have much value. A silent and heavy air descended on everything, as Feng Tianci didn't know how to comfort them. In fact, there was one more thing he didn't mention, and that was that there was an even bigger issue with this technique. In order to cultivate this technique, one needed to cultivate two soul clones, and these two soul clones were different from ordinary soul clones. Whether it was the divine spirit self, monster self, or the human self, although they were inextricably connected to the true body, they could basically be considered independent entities with their own unique characters and thoughts. It was also because of this reason that after the union of three selves, the consciousnesses of the two soul clones were not actually lost, which led to the coexistence of these soul clones with the true body. During the battle, Yang Kai's consciousness had suddenly fallen into a comatose state as his Tao strengths had become unstable, allowing his monster self and human self to emerge. Although Yang Kai was now a Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm Master, his body contained three different consciousnesses, which was a big hidden danger. Perhaps one day, during a great battle, his original consciousness would fall into a coma again, transferring the possession of the body to Thunder Shadow or Feng Tianci. However, neither of them could bring out Yang Kai's true strength. This was a grave concern. Now that Yang Kai was a Ninth Order Master, his future opponents would definitely be masters like Royal Lords or Black Ink Giant Spirit Gods. In a fight with such a powerful opponent, the slightest mistake could lead to eternal damnation. Feng Tianci couldn't help but be a little worried about it. but he had no idea how to resolve this issue. In his and Thunder Shadow's original plan, when the three selves united, his and Thunder Shadow's consciousness would also fuse back into the main body. At that time, Feng Tian Ci and Thunder Shadow would no longer exist in this world. However, things didn't go as they had envisioned. Yang Kai's consciousness suddenly fell into deep slumber, and Thunder Shadow's consciousness woke up. After he was left in charge of the original's body, even Thunder Shadow took some time to adapt. After a moment of silence, Feng Tian Ci changed the subject. What are our casualties this time? Yang Lai heaved a sigh as he replied, everyone is injured and needs to rest, and over 100 fell in battle. The fallen ones he was talking about were not 6th Order or 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters, but 8th Order Masters. More than 100 8th Order Masters had died in this battle alone. The number of 8th Order Masters gathered here in the last battle was only a few hundred in total, and about 20% of them had died. Such losses were not insignificant. The fall of so many 8th Order Masters was mainly because of two reasons. First, because the human race had lost the protection of their warships, and second, because Mo Nai had ordered the Black Ink Clan to kill at all costs. The human race hadn't suffered many casualties during the early stages of the battle. At that time, Xiang Shan was refining the Open Heaven Pill's medicinal efficacies and trying to break through to the 9th Order Open Heaven Realm. Mo Nai had hidden his trump card and was waiting for Yang Kai to appear, so naturally he wouldn't force the human race too hard. Furthermore, the human race's warships were still displaying their full power at that time. After Yang Kai advanced to the 9th Order, both sides began to suffer massive casualties. Although the human race had Yang Shui's assistance, she was still just one person. The best she could do was defend one side of the defense line. She was unable to deal with the combined attacks of the Black Ink Clan army. After the last battle of the Barren Territory War, there had never been a fight in which the human race had lost so many masters in thousands of years. We might have suffered significant losses, but the results of the battle were also great. The Black Ink Clan definitely lost more, Yang Lai encouraged, after seeing everyone become low-spirited. While the human race had lost over 100 8th Order Masters, the Black Ink Clan had lost at least 500 territory lords and a few pseudo-royal lords. Most of these casualties were wrought during the final pursuit, when the territory lords fled like stray dogs. Basically, not a single Black Ink Clansman who was caught survived. As such, this was still a huge victory. Not to mention, the human race now had 3 more 9th Order Open Heaven Masters, including Xiao Xiao, Wu Qing, Luo Tinghe, and Wei Junyang. The human race already had as many as 7 9th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters. This was definitely an inspiring force. Although Mo Nai had become a royal lord and had escaped, he was just one man. The human race had also produced many newly advanced 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters and harvested many ordinary-grade Open Heaven Pills. If these ordinary-grade Open Heaven Pills were to be distributed, the human race would gain even more new 8th Order Masters. It could be said that the human race had a great harvest with the appearance of the universe furnace. Unfortunately, we were too careless and caused Big Head Xiang to fail his breakthrough. Yang Lai glanced at Xiang Shan and indignantly sighed. Had he been on guard and quickly caught the hidden Black Ink disciples, Xiang Shan would probably be a 9th Order Master right now, but during that kind of battle, who would have expected for a Black Ink disciple to be hiding amongst the 8th Order Masters? When the 3 8th Order Black Ink disciples started rampaging at 2 battlefronts, not only did they cause Xiang Shan to fail in his breakthrough, but they also broke Yang Kai's 8 trigrams battle formation, severely injuring him in the process. Everyone was befuddled and had really fallen into despair. Fortunately, they managed to turn things around and turn defeat into victory. There's nothing to be sorry about. Xiang Shan, on the other hand, looked completely calm. In that situation, not realizing the Black Ink Disciple's existence was a good thing. If we had caught Black Ink Disciple earlier, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The Black Ink Clan actually had the absolute upper hand before Yang Kai's appearance, but Mo Nai had been holding back and hadn't displayed his true strength as he wanted to engage in a long-drawn battle with the 6 Paths formation led by Yang Xiao. Judging by the strength Mo Nai displayed later on, He was completely capable of quickly defeating Yang Xiao, even with the Six Paths formation at a cost, but he didn't, because he was waiting. If they really disrupted Imon Naye's plans, they would have only forced him to act in advance. At that time, Yang Shui was fully occupied with the Chaos Spirit King, so there was only one Ninth Order Master on the human race side, Ouyang Lai, who was preoccupied with Xiao Yu and the territory lords led by him. So, who could stop Imon Naye? Breaking Imon Naye's arrangements would only force him to go on a killing spree, which would definitely have ended tragically. Hearing Xiang Shan's words, Ouyang Lai pondered for a moment before agreeing with him. You're right. This was the perfect example of the popular adage, man proposes, but heaven disposes. Imon Naye thought he had everything under control, but unforeseen events kept throwing his plans off. For instance, had the Chaos Spirit King not suddenly appeared, eyeing Xiang Shan's supreme-grade open heaven pill, Imon Naye's plan would have failed from the start. The appearance of the Chaos Spirit King was equivalent to the Black Ink clan finding a helper for free. This was also the main reason why the human race was in such a difficult situation. Not to mention, Xiang Shan suddenly smiled. Who said I failed my breakthrough? Everyone was taken aback for a moment, and Ouyang Lai couldn't help but size up Xiang Shan a few times, his divine sense constantly scanning him as he muttered curiously, "You're not a Ninth Order Master." It was an irrefutable fact that Xiang Shan was still an Eighth Order Master and had yet to break through. Moreover, everyone had witnessed him failing in his breakthrough. At that time, when the two Black Ink disciples were rampaging, Xiang Shan had no choice but to stop his advancement. It was already pretty good that he did not suffer any backlash, so how could he possibly break through? After that incident, everyone believed that Xiang Shan's path to reaching the Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm was cut off, and he would remain at the peak of the Eighth Order Open Heaven Realm for the rest of his life. I didn't say I was a Ninth Order Master. Xiang Shan shot a glance at him. A thoughtful look appeared on Yang Shui's face. Senior brother Xiang's situation is different from other veteran Eighth Order Masters. In that case, does that mean the Supreme Grade Open Heaven Pill was useful to you? Xiang Shan nodded slightly in affirmation. Over 90% of my small universe's boundary wall has been destroyed, leaving only a thin barrier behind. I think I can now break through with my own strength. From the beginning, Xiang Shan was qualified to reach the Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm as he broke through directly to the Seventh Order millennia ago. However, because of a harrowing battle on the Black Ink battlefield in the past, during which his small universe was corrupted by Black Ink strength, he had no choice but to sacrifice a large portion of it to protect himself, which caused his order to regress. Although he managed to recover his fallen order by repairing his small universe using a profounding spirit fruit, his small universe's boundary wall seemed to have become much thicker because of that experience. These circumstances basically made it extremely difficult for him to break through with his own strength. While Luo Tinghe and Wei Junyang had broken through to the Ninth Order during the last 1,000 years in secluded cultivation, Xiang Shan had not made any progress. The boundary wall was so solid that even ordinary grade open heaven pills couldn't put a dent in it. It wasn't until he had refined a supreme-grade open heaven pill that he felt a difference. Imon Naye had allowed him to refine the pill until the very last moment before ordering the Black Ink disciples to launch a sneak attack, clearly thinking that was enough to completely destroy Xiang Shan's path forward. But what Imon Naye never expected was that Xiang Shan would still be left with a ray of hope precisely because of this delay. Currently, the boundary wall in Xiang Shan's small universe was no longer as thick and solid as it used to be. Rather, it was even thinner than an average peak Eighth Order Master. Such a boundary wall could not stop him. Although he had not tried yet, Xiang Shan was completely confident. Xiang Shan could actually break through to the Ninth Order. Everyone was overjoyed by this news. Yang Kai was a symbol of the human race among the trillions of humans, but so was Xiang Shan. Yang Kai had already advanced to the Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm, but there were some problems with his cultivation because of the mysterious technique he used. If Xiang Shan could also break through to the Ninth Order, it would greatly boost the morale of the human race's soldiers. Although Ouyang Lai had always had a kind of rivalry with Big Head Xiang, at this moment, he was genuinely happy and broke into a hearty laughter. So you're saying that the effects of the supreme-grade open heaven pill haven't been wasted? Imo Na Ye's plan was also in vain? Previously, in order to lure the Chaos Spirit King away, Yang Kai had thrown out a supreme-grade open heaven pill, which was enough to make one's heart ache. That was a chance to gain another Ninth Order Master. If Xiang Shan couldn't break through, it would be tantamount to losing another supreme-grade open heaven pill. The human race had only managed to obtain a total of 4 such pills this time. That's all. Losing half of them, one after another, would be hard for anyone to accept. But by the looks of it, the only pill they had lost was the one Yang Kai had thrown away, while the one Xiang Shan had refined still played its role. Everyone was overjoyed. There's no time to lose, quickly break through to the Ninth Order, Oh Yang Lai urged. Xiang Shan agreed with a nod. That's what I was planning to do. Martial Peak, Chapter 5798, 3 Souls in One Body. Xiang Shan left to focus on his breakthrough. Perhaps it would not take him long to become a Ninth Order Master. Almost everyone on the human race's side was busy recuperating, as all of them had been injured in the last battle. The only different thing was the severity of their injuries. Yang Lai looked at Feng Tianci, who was controlling Yang Kai's body, and suggested, "You should also go and recuperate. Junior sister Shui and I will act as protectors." Yang Lai was also injured, but his wounds were not that serious. As for Yang Shui, she was completely unharmed, just exhausted from having consumed a great deal of energy in the last fight. She would just need a little time to recuperate. Currently, most of the human cultivators were recovering, but with 2 Ninth Order Masters personally overseeing everything, there should be no problems at all. Feng Tianci nodded. Good. He really did need to heal himself, as his physical injuries were still quite serious. Yang Kai might have become a divine dragon and had astonishing healing abilities, but his consciousness was still in a coma. Feng Tianci had to find a way to awaken Yang Kai's consciousness. He immediately found a secluded spot and sat down cross-legged before stuffing a handful of pills into his mouth. The cacophonous battlefield suddenly sunk into silence. All the Black Ink clansmen had either died or fled, leaving behind traces of a horrific battle in the void. Most of the corpses of the human race masters had been collected, but as most of them had died without an intact corpse, it was impossible to gather everyone's remains. As the number, as well as quality of the masters participating in this battle were both extremely high, the loss of so many at once was extremely tragic and heart-wrenching. How many times has the Grand Tao evolved? When Yang Kai attacked and almost killed Imo Na Yi, the Grand Tao of the Universe Furnace World had undergone another evolution, but as the battle was quite intense at that time, no one had paid any attention to it. The last one was the 8th time, Yang Shui replied, stuffing some recovery pills into her mouth. Yang Lai slowly nodded. The Universe Furnace is about to close. According to the information provided by Bloodcrow, after the Universe Furnace World's Grand Tao underwent 9 evolutions, the Universe Furnace World would close and everyone would be expelled. The place they would reappear would be the same as the place from where they entered. In other words, the humans and Black Ink clansmen would appear in the same location they entered the Universe Furnace after they were expelled from the Universe Furnace World. This information was extremely important and could be used by the human race. If things went well, they could deliver a huge blow to the Black Ink clan. After all, the Black Ink clan outside did not know this matter. They knew that Black Ink disciples couldn't keep any secrets, but even if the Black Ink clansmen inside the Universe Furnace World now knew, so what? The appearance of the Universe Furnace had suddenly triggered wars across various great territory battlefields. Many Black Ink clansmen forced their way through the human race's defensive lines and entered the Universe Furnace World through the projections. At that time, their entire focus was on destroying the human race's opportunity, but it would have never occurred to them that when the Universe Furnace closed, everyone would return to their original location. Currently, all the locations where the Universe Furnace's projection space had appeared should be heavily guarded by the human race army, waiting for the Black Ink clansmen to appear to destroy them. Of course, the human race had no way of interfering in places like the Barren Territory and Black Ink battlefield. After all, they were completely under the Black Ink clan's control. The Black Ink clan would be able to return safely from these 2 locations. but it would be difficult for them to safely return from the other entrances. It was foreseeable that the day this universe furnace closed would be the day the humans slaughtered many of them. The human race would definitely bag another glorious victory. As time passed, everyone separated to recover. Inside Yang Kai's body, Feng Tianci immersed his consciousness and tried to awaken Yang Kai's consciousness with Thunder Shadow's help. He had thought that it would be difficult, but much to their surprise, Yang Kai's consciousness woke up after a casual attempt. "Big brother, you're finally awake." Thunder Shadow's surprised voice rang out in his mind. Yang Kai couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, thinking that he was hearing things. However, when he realized that something was wrong with his body, he finally reacted. "Feng Tianci and Thunder Shadow's consciousnesses are now sharing my body. What the hell is going on?" Yang Kai's thoughts were still stuck at the moment he had injured Emo Na and was preparing to pursue him, so he had no idea what had happened after that. "Is Emo Na dead?" Yang Kai asked. "He escaped," Feng Tianci replied. "At that time, your consciousness suddenly sank into a coma and third brother's consciousness awakened a step ahead of me, putting him in control of your body. As he doesn't understand the Tao of space, he couldn't chase after Emo Na." Thunder Shadow unhappily explained himself, "There's nothing I can do about it. After Big Brother's consciousness fell asleep, I just suddenly woke up. I also chased after him, but he was too fast. It's all second brother's fault. If he had woken up earlier than me, perhaps Emo Na would be dead now." Feng Tianci was also proficient in the Tao of space, and although his mastery wasn't as high as Yang Kai's, had he been in control of Yang Kai's body at that time, Emo Na would have been unable to escape. It was just that at that time, Thunder Shadow had indeed awoken a step sooner, and by the time Feng Tianci's consciousness had awakened, Emo Na had already fled out of their sight. At that time, it was already meaningless for him to take control of Yang Kai's body. Listening to their explanations, Yang Kai roughly understood what had happened. Although he found it a bit regretful, he still stated, as expected, "A scourge will live for 1,000 years. Who would have thought that his consciousness would suddenly go haywire at such a critical moment? Just like how all of Emo Na's schemes had come to nothing, Yang Kai never expected that one of his schemes would lead to so many variables. Then what about us? What's our situation now?" Yang Kai felt a headache coming on. Originally, he had thought that after combining the three selves, all of his soul clones would merge into one, but after waking up, he discovered that there were two other egos in his body. He couldn't help but recall what befell Bustling World Great Emperor all those years ago. During the battle in the Shattered Star Sea, Bustling World Great Emperor had fallen to Wu Kuang's scheme and had almost had his body seized by the latter. Although Wu Kuang had ultimately failed, he had still managed to fuse with Bustling World Great Emperor and share his body. As a result, the souls of these two great emperors had to reside in one body for many years, fighting openly and covertly. Wu Kuang had also used Bustling World Great Emperor's body to accomplish many things. Ultimately, after killing Great Demon God Emo Sheng in the Star Boundary, Wu Kuang left the Bustling World Great Emperor's body and seized Emo Sheng's body. Duan Hongqin and Wu Kuang only had two souls in one body, but Yang Kai now had a total of 3. The only silver lining he had over Duan Hongqin's situation was that the two others would not oppose him. After all, these two originated from him and shared the same ideals as him. Be that as it may, it was not good news either. If Yang Kai remained in this state for a long time, problems would inevitably appear. The current situation is probably a hidden danger brought about by the three selves source reconstitution art. Although Third Brother and I originated from you, we are still independent individuals. Perhaps because the differences are too great, the fusion of three cells is incomplete, Feng Tianci postulated. Everything from their strength, source, and their own destiny had all fused into the main body, but their egos remained untouched, and this was the root cause of Yang Kai's current situation. Yang Kai lightly nodded in acknowledgement, thinking that there should be a reason. He couldn't help but curse in his heart, "That bastard Wu Kuang, he really harmed me." At that time, if he hadn't cultivated the three selves source reconstitution art, He could have used a supreme-grade open heaven pill to advance to the Ninth Order and would not be in this awkward situation. But he had no other choice at that time either. Yang Kai could not place his hopes on the ethereal universe furnace. He had to try to find some definite way to break through to the Ninth Order. Wu Kuang's three-self source reconstitution art happened to give him that hope. Actually, this problem shouldn't be difficult to overcome, Fang Tianci suddenly stated. Third brother and I are basically complete entities, so as long as you cut off a portion of your soul that contains our essence, third brother and I will just need to find suitable physical bodies. The best option would be an infant who has just been born or is about to be born. This was equivalent to cultivating from the start again, but the goal this time was not the fusion of three selves. Yang Kai had done this before, so it shouldn't be difficult for him to do it again. Wu Kuang could have used this method to separate himself from Duan Hongchun back then, but he wasn't willing to do so mainly because he would definitely enter a period of weakness after separating. He was afraid Duan Hongchun would finish him off during that time, which was why he was entangled with him for many years. Yang Kai nodded in agreement. There's no rush. We can discuss it after we've dealt with Imo. Not to mention, he would definitely be weakened for many years after splitting his soul. Now that the war had fully broken out between the Black Ink clan and human race, and he had reached the Ninth Order open heaven realm, how could Yang Kai allow himself to become weak when he should be focusing on destroying Imo? Furthermore, he didn't know if he would suddenly fall unconscious in the future. If that happened again, having these two to take over his body was a kind of safety measure. Even if the two were unable to display his full strength, they wouldn't be completely helpless against even powerful enemies. I'm not in a hurry. Big Brother can do as you see fit, Thunder Shadow indifferently stated. At the very least, he didn't have to worry about where to go to kill his enemies. What's going on over there? Yang Kai looked up again. Someone seemed to be breaking through in that direction, giving off a fierce aura and energy fluctuations. Furthermore, they were giving a familiar feeling. It was none other than Xiang Shan. Didn't Xiang Shan fail to break through? Why is he breaking through again? Yang Kai couldn't understand. In his mind, Fang Tianci repeated what Xiang Shan had said before, after which, Yang Kai understood everything. In other words, Xiang Shan's supreme-grade open heaven pill had not been wasted. He had indeed been interrupted at the critical moment of his breakthrough, but at that time, his small universe's boundary wall had almost been completely broken. As such, even if he was interrupted, the progress he made towards a breakthrough hadn't been lost. This was good news. In that case, the human race would be able to gain 4 new Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm Masters thanks to the Universe Furnace, which was in line with his initial expectations. This time, the Universe Furnace had produced a total of 9 Supreme-Grade Open Heaven Pills. Yang Shui had obtained 1, Xiang Shan had obtained 1, and Yang Kai alone had obtained 2. The main reason for this was because he had the Great Sun and Moon marks. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to find the whereabouts of these 2 pills so easily. Of the 2 pills Yang Kai obtained, one of them had allowed Ouyang Lai to reach the Ninth Order while the other was used to lure away the Chaos Spirit King. On the Black Ink clan side, Imo Na Yi obtained one while Xiao Yu had obtained another. In other words, the whereabouts of the other 3 Supreme-Grade Open Heaven pills were still unknown. If the human race and Black Ink clan hadn't seized them, there was a high chance they had fallen into the hands of the Chaos Spirit clan. The Chaos Spirit clan were natives to the Universe Furnace world and had a massive population, which gave them a natural advantage in this place. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.